Chapter 350, Emperor's Blood Essence. 1. Qingshan arrived in front of everyone in the Qingshan Emperor clan. He traversed mountains and seas from the Celestial Court Academy to this place. When he heard Qingshan Ling's words, he immediately spoke. Everyone looked at Qingshan. Who was this person? How dare he be so disrespectful in front of a crimson immortal? Some of them recognized who Qingshan was when they saw him. Isn't this Qingshan, who's ranked 10th on the Young Emperor ranking? It's him. He's the number 1 genius of the Celestial Court. He only had 1 battle record, but it's enough to overshadow the achievements of other young talents in the Celestial Court for a lifetime. They're all both from the Celestial Court. How could he undermine the Qingshan Emperor clan? Lunatic. He's a lunatic. How dare he speak so arrogantly in front of a crimson immortal? Some people were discussing among themselves. They looked at Qingshan and shook their heads. Offending a crimson immortal in such a situation was simply asking for trouble. On the other side, Hua Xiangrong, who was guarding Taoist Dragon's body, saw Qingshan and was delighted. Just as she was about to stand up, she remembered that she had to protect Taoist Dragon's body, so she could only watch silently and cheer for Qingshan in her heart. Qingshan, who was being watched by everyone, walked up calmly. He stood hundreds of meters away from Qingshan Ling and watched calmly in the middle of the crowd. All the previous anger dissipated into calmness at this moment. Just like, would you be angry with a dead person? No. You would only look at the dead man calmly. Qingshan Ling remained silent. He stared at Qingshan with a cold expression. Swish. The people around Qingshan quickly moved away. They could feel the pressure from the crimson immortal, and their bodies felt like they were about to split apart. Their spirits trembled, and they dared not stay any longer. However, Qingshan looked at Qingshan Ling as if nothing had happened. Take back what you said just now. You are still the son-in-law of the Qingshan Emperor clan, a genius of the Celestial Court. Qingshan Ling said coldly. He was very angry. If it were anyone else who had said those words in such a situation, he would have killed them without hesitation and turned them into ashes. But not Qingshan. Qingshan was a genius. Qingshan Ling loved geniuses. He deeply understood that the prosperity of a family didn't depend on those ordinary, mediocre, and unaccomplished disciples. The prosperity of a family relied on the endless stream of geniuses. What the Qingshan Emperor clan lacked the most now was geniuses. Because of the previous decline of the Qingshan Emperor clan, they didn't have strict control over their bloodlines. The marriages between the new generation of disciples and women were very casual, which diluted the emperor's bloodline. The probability of geniuses appearing was very low. This was the drawback of the Qingshan Emperor clan. That was why Qingshan Ling had been inviting Taoist Dragon and Qingshan for over a decade. Even now, he used Qingshan's sister and relatives to threaten him. Qingshan Ling knew that it was impossible to win Qingshan's heart. But he didn't mind. What he wanted was Qingshan's physical bloodline. As for where Qingshan's heart flew, he didn't care. Even though Qingshan had humiliated Qingshan Ling in public and made him very angry, he still chose to suppress his anger and give Qingshan a chance. In Qingshan Ling's eyes, geniuses had special privileges. Qingshan was a genius. Therefore, he had a very high tolerance for Qingshan. Qingshan looked at Qingshan Ling. He didn't expect Qingshan Ling to give him a chance. Qingshan was touched by his continuous invitations for over a decade. He thought about it and said seriously, I don't agree. Boom. As soon as these words came out, Qingshan Ling could no longer hold back his anger. A terrifying aura rose, the wind howled, the clouds churned, and the world rumbled. The aura pressed down, causing everyone to tremble in fear. The Crimson Immortal was furious. Do you think I won't dare to kill you? Qingshan Ling said angrily. Do you think I will tolerate you again and again just because you are a genius? Do you think you have the right to behave atrociously in front of a Crimson Immortal? Qingshan Ling's every word was like thunder, resounding around the mountain. It was like the roar of the great path, roaring in the sky. The pressure pressed down, causing the air to freeze. Everyone felt that Qingshan was courting death. Even the crimson immortal Qingshan Ling had given him a way out, but he still refused to back down and had to provoke him. On someone else's joyous occasion, he came to provoke them. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to be beaten to death. Qingshan looked at the furious Qingshan Ling and felt a little emotional. The Qingshan Emperor clan really lacked the bloodline of geniuses. They were already so furious, yet they still didn't make a move. From this, it could be seen that although the Qingshan Emperor clan had recovered from its decline, it was still heavily injured. At the very least, their emperor's bloodline had been destroyed. Qingshan looked at the furious Qingshan Ling. His face gradually turned cold and said, "Do you think that you're invincible just because you're a crimson immortal? Do you think that I will submit to you? Do you think that I'll serve your Qingshan Emperor clan just because you captured my sister? Do you think that you won't get retribution for squeezing the resources of the human world dry?" Qingshan imitated Qingshan Ling's tone. His every word was like a knife. He wasn't affected by Qingshan Ling's anger at all. Instead, he took a step forward. With every word he said, he took a step forward, and a great path flower bloomed under his feet. With each great path flower that bloomed, it was vibrant and exuded the essence of the great path, continuously enhancing Qingshan's momentum. When Qingshan first arrived here, he had just entered the same plane. But with each word he spoke, a great path flower bloomed. Chapter 351, Emperor's Blood Essence. 2. After 4 sentences, Qingshan's imposing manner was like climbing a mountain, piling up to the highest point. Boom! Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Qingshan was like a bolt of lightning, splitting apart the darkness of the world. He also split apart Qingshan Ling's aura. The thunder exploded. Qingshan was extremely terrifying. He had descended into the world, directly announcing his cultivation as a crimson immortal. 4 steps. He had crossed 4 steps of the same plane. Ancient immortal, lifespan immortal, everlasting immortal, crimson immortal. These 4 steps made Qingshan's momentum shine like the rising sun, illuminating the mortal world. Everyone was dumbfounded. They watched as the 2 powerful crimson immortals' auras clashed, and they were evenly matched. They rubbed their eyes in disbelief, and their minds were in turmoil, unable to comprehend the scene before them. This was too shocking. They were so shocked that they couldn't say anything. Because no words could describe this scene. Everyone looked on in a daze, including Qingshan Ling, who was also caught in shock. Someone suddenly said, F***ck. Just as everyone was shocked beyond words, this sentence ended the scene. Then, all kinds of discussions ensued. Is this Qingshan? He's only ranked 10th on the Young Emperor ranking. I can't believe it. He just took 4 steps and reached the Crimson Immortal Realm, which others haven't achieved even after 10 of thousands of years. Is he still considered a genius? This is a monster. This world is going to change. This is too scary. How old is he? He ascended from the human world, and he's already become a Crimson Immortal so quickly? Could he be the reincarnation of some Emperor Realm expert? No, the demonic divine concubine is a reincarnation, but she has yet to break through to the Crimson Immortal Realm. Qingshan still managed to do it. Is there such a huge disparity between people? Everyone looked at Qingshan and discussed crazily. They were shocked. Qingshan Ling, who had been staring at Qingshan all along, constantly changed his expression, truly shaken. He took a deep breath and looked at Qingshan with a complicated expression as he said, "You actually broke through to the Crimson Immortal Realm, and so effortlessly." Qingshan Ling's heart was filled with envy, jealousy, and hatred, which were clearly visible on his face. He thought back to how much suffering he had endured to break through to the Crimson Immortal Realm. He thought about how he had spent half of his life scheming, and how it had taken him tens of thousands of years to become a Crimson Immortal. As for Qingshan? How long had he been in the immortal plane? He hadn't left the Celestial Court Academy, and in just over a decade, he had become a Crimson Immortal. Comparing people was infuriating. Why did you break through so quickly? Qingshan Ling finally asked in confusion. He was afraid that he would suffocate to death. If he didn't ask clearly, he would feel uncomfortable all over. The others also wanted to know. This was too terrifying. Even the current emperors couldn't compare to half of Qingshan, right? If you want to know, I'll tell you after I kill you. Qingshan said with a cold face and a cold gaze. You want to fight to the death with me? Qingshan was furious. He was both angry and furious, yet he strangely felt a sense of reluctance to engage in a life-or-death battle with Qingshan. Qingshan had no confidence in fighting such an enigmatic young genius. Unless he used the trump card of the Qingshan Emperor clan. However, it was the last resort of the Qingshan Emperor clan. Its power would be tremendous, but if used, the Qingshan Emperor clan would find itself in a very difficult situation in the future. You have brought calamity to the human world for 20,000 years. In the past, countless geniuses in the human world had the hope of ascending to the immortal plane. They had unlimited prospects. But you seized the authority of the human world, you locked the gate of immortality in the sun, and you cut off the path of those geniuses. They died because of you. Qingshan's eyes were like torches and his gaze was cold. He thought of the undying holy Buddha who had guided him all the way in the human world. He thought of Qingshan who had stolen his first kiss. He thought of many, many things. These people were definitely not the only ones. They were just a miniature version of the past 20,000 years. Many people like them perished in despair because they couldn't ascend to the immortal plane. All of this was because of Crimson Immortal before him. Qingshan's gaze was cold and chilling, especially when he thought of Qingshan. This girl was from the heaven-defying family whose life had been full of hardships. She had a chance to be resurrected. Her remnant soul had come to the immortal plane, and the giant sword was recovering its origin energy. Qingshan could come back to life. But she died in the human world. Because of Qingshan Qingshan, your sister is still in my hands. I cherish talents and don't want to fight with you. I'm deeply sorry about what you said about the human world, but you also don't want your sister to get into trouble, do you? Qingshan shouted coldly. He looked at Qingshan's imposing manner and felt that he was no match for him. This feeling came without rhyme or reason. However, Qingshan believed that his premonition had never been wrong. Therefore, he stared deeply at Qingshan and brought out Little Nine, trying to use his sister to restrict Qingshan. At this moment, Qingshan felt fortunate that he had found Qingshan's sister. Otherwise, even if they won today, it would be a huge loss for the Qingshan Emperor clan. Sister, Qingshan murmured. Seeing this, Qingshan immediately said, Your sister is fine in my hands. I didn't mistreat her. As long as you're willing, we can reconcile. Your sister will be the matriarch of my Qingshan Emperor clan and hold all the power. The children she bears will be the next clan leaders of my Qingshan Emperor clan. The most outstanding woman of this generation of the Qingshan Emperor clan will marry you. Together, we can control significant influence in the celestial court. I will help you establish a family and become nobles in the immortal plane, high above everyone else. You will be responsible for expanding the family. Isn't this a win-win situation for both of us? Chapter 352, Emperor's Blood Essence. 3. To win Qingshan over, Qingshan didn't hesitate to pay the cost and promised him great benefits in an attempt to persuade him. When the people around them heard these conditions, they were tempted. If they were Qingshan, they would have agreed immediately. Right at this moment, Taoist Dragon, who had been projecting his primordial spirit, suddenly stood up and shouted excitedly, Qingshan, I just projected my primordial spirit and wandered around the Qingshan Emperor clan. I found our sister and sent them out safely. Don't worry. Hearing that, Hua Shangrong clapped her hands excitedly and grabbed Taoist Dragon's arm. Qingshan face turned as black as the bottom of a pot. He glared at Taoist Dragon with fire in his eyes. He said through gritted teeth, D*MNU, how dare you ruin my plans? Little guy, when your Taoist Dragon came out to be a gangster, you were still an embryo. How dare you behave so arrogantly in front of me and mock me? Let me tell you what it means to be old but not dead is to be a third, Taoist Dragon said proudly. D*net old thing,
you should be eliminated by time, Qingshan Ling said.
Li Qingshan smiled and looked at Taoist Dragon, casting him an appreciative glance. Then, he turned to Qingshan Ling and said softly, after I broke through, I don't know how strong I am.
Please enlighten me today. Qingshan Ling's face was cold and he remained silent.
He stared at Li Qingshan. He was under immense pressure, but the current situation was no longer under his control. The experts of the Demon Clan, Monster Clan, God Realm, Celestial Court, Buddha Realm, and Hell began to retreat. Once these two Crimson Immortals fought, it would definitely be earth-shattering. Although it wouldn't be as great as a battle between emperors, it would be enough to shock the world.
Must we fight? Qingshan Ling calmed down.
He looked at Li Qingshan and asked.
We must fight. Li Qingshan nodded. This was for the geniuses of the human world, for Qingshan, and for Little Nine. Didn't he work so hard in the past just for this moment? You will die. Qingshan Ling raised his head and said coldly. I will risk everything. Li Qingshan said in a deep voice. Alright, let's go to the starry sky and fight. Qingshan Ling knew that this battle was unavoidable, but it couldn't take place here.
Once they started fighting here, it would be disastrous for the Qingshan Emperor clan.
Boom!
He soared into the sky, carrying the aura of a Crimson Immortal. The thunderclouds were vast and terrifying. They shattered the galaxy and caused the sky to collapse. The void was like a rag that fluttered in the wind. The killing intent suppressed the ancient times. Although Qingshan Ling had his intuition, he was still confident. Since this battle couldn't be avoided, he would let the world see the terror of the Qingshan Emperor clan. Boundless immortal light radiated out from Li Qingshan as he stepped out into the air. Rumbling sounds could be heard as the aura of a Crimson Immortal spread out for 30,000 kilometers. The two Crimson Immortals unleashed their full power, immediately attracting the attention of all the factions in the Immortal Plane. At this moment, everyone raised their heads and looked at the starry sky. Two terrifying auras were vast and mighty, causing people to feel pressured. What kind of experts are fighting? It's the Immortal King, the fourth level of the Immortal King, the Crimson Immortal Realm. Two Crimson Immortals actually engaged in a life-and-death battle in the outer domain. This is something very rare. Which faction do these Crimson Immortals belong to? Wait, why does that young Crimson Immortal look so familiar? He looks familiar to me too. It seems. It's Li Qingshan. That's right, it's Li Qingshan. He's ranked 10th on the Young Emperor ranking. He's always been heavily criticized. After 10 years, everyone thinks that he's not worthy of being on the rankings. That's because he kept a low profile. Didn't you see that Li Qingshan is already a Crimson Immortal? He's not even worthy of carrying shoes on the Young Emperor ranking. I didn't expect Li Qingshan to be a Crimson Immortal. The world is going to change. Then who is Li Qingshan fighting against? It's the new Crimson Immortal from the Qingshan Emperor clan. Why are they fighting? The people of the world discussed animatedly. They looked at the starry sky in disbelief. Those two terrifying auras had already gradually collided. Bang! Qingshan Ling entered the starry sky and launched a silent attack. His intuition told him that he was no match for Li Qingshan, so he attacked first to seize the opportunity. Qingshan Ling slapped Li Qingshan's head at lightning speed, emitting a blazing light. It was as if the end of the world had arrived, and countless stars were ignited at the same time before exploding. Li Qingshan stretched out his hand and pulled. The great path was under his palm, and the space was stretched infinitely. There was only one step between Qingshan Ling and Li Qingshan, but it was as if there was a galaxy between them. At the same time, Li Qingshan's speed had reached the limit of this world. With one step, the river of time stagnated and even began to flow backward. A shadow was left behind. Li Qingshan's leg spun and swept towards Qingshan Ling. It was like the Milky Way rolling over. The shockwave was boundless and caused the star domain in front of him to collapse. Boom! This attack caused Qingshan Ling to stagger. He spat out a mouthful of blood, his body trembled, and his aura weakened. He looked at Li Qingshan in shock.
He hadn't even touched Li Qingshan's shadow. He had been injured.
Compared to Li Qingshan, he seemed like a toddler who was unable to compete with him. In this initial confrontation, his defeat was already visible to the naked eye. Li Qingshan had become stronger. As he turned around, his face was cold and his aura overwhelmed. The trembling star domain shattered into pieces, affecting another part of the sea of stars and causing many large planets to explode. Chapter 353, Emperor's Blood Essence. 4. A few flowers bloomed around Li Qingshan's body. They were shining with various brightness as some bloomed and some withered. There was the rotation of the path of yin and yang. There was the path of space and the path of time. There was the path of thunder and the path of slaughter. We're both crimson immortal, how can you be so terrifying? Qingshan Ling wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth and said in shock. You're too weak. Li Qingshan said calmly. With 3,000 great paths in his body, he had used hundreds of thousands of years to comprehend. He was completely suppressed by people of the same realm. I don't believe it. Qingshan Ling couldn't accept this. After becoming a crimson immortal, he had been very proud of himself. He had thought that he had reached a new height in his life, but now, his height had been easily destroyed by Li Qingshan. He roared angrily and struck out with his palm. It was as if a galaxy had exploded, and it was extremely powerful. Puff! However, Li Qingshan simply stared at the galaxy, and flowers bloomed around him. He charged forward without any pressure and hit Qingshan Ling's chest hard. Gotcha! Qingshan Ling's entire body shook violently, and his ribs broke. His body trembled, and he was being tortured. Even his crimson immortal origin energy had been forced out. Qingshan Ling's previous high spirits and complacency were all gone now. He was very miserable. Everyone in the immortal plane was watching this battle. They had expected it to be an evenly matched fight, but who would have thought it would be such a one-sided slaughter? Moreover, this one-sided slaughter wasn't what they had imagined. Many experts in the immortal plane believed that it should have been the Qingshan Emperor's bloodline Qingshan Ling who would slaughter Li Qingshan. But unexpectedly, the situation had reversed, and it was Li Qingshan who slaughtered Qingshan Ling. Is the Qingshan Emperor's bloodline that weak? Someone asked curiously. It's not that Qingshan Ling is too weak. On the contrary, he is very powerful. He possesses the Emperor's scripture of the Qingshan Emperor and carries the bloodline of the Qingshan Emperor. He can perfectly unleash the power of the Emperor's scripture. Then why was he slaughtered by Li Qingshan? He couldn't even touch the corner of Li Qingshan's clothes. This can only mean that Li Qingshan is too powerful. In the Great Zhou Empire, the last immortal emperor of the immortal plane was watching silently. This Li Qingshan has hidden so many great paths. He's simply terrifying. He's the person with the highest hope of breaking the shackles of the world. Could it be that a new emperor is about to be born? The emperor of Great Zhou looked on calmly, his mind filled with thoughts. He had no grudges with Li Qingshan, so he looked on coldly from the sidelines. In another world, several terrifying demons were discussing. This Li Qingshan is the hope of the celestial court. He must be extinguished. He has the potential of becoming an emperor. We can't let him break through and prolong the life of the celestial court. Shall I make a move now? No rush. Let's wait a little longer. Let him force out the trump card of the Qingshan Emperor clan. Then, the celestial court will lose a portion of its strength. The top experts of the demon realm came to such a conclusion after a brief discussion. In the god realm. In the monster realm. In the Buddha realm. In hell. The people of the various large factions were watching this battle. Li Qingshan's strength was astonishing, leaving people amazed. Many people in the celestial court were watching, especially those crimson immortals. They felt a sense of sorrow when they saw Qingshan Ling being suppressed by Li Qingshan and killed one-sidedly. This Li Qingshan is too terrifying. Many people sighed. In the starry sky, Qingshan Ling was in a miserable state under Li Qingshan's attack. His aura weakened, and his body already crumbling. It was only the power of Crimson Immortal that had saved his life. Of course, it was also because Qingshan did not fully unleash his power.
He knew that he was being watched by countless people this time. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, Qingshan didn't want to go all out.
Anyway, as long as he killed Qingshan, everything would be over.
It's time to end it,
Qingshan said coldly. He put his fingers together as a sword. A light sword appeared in the starry sky and pointed at Qingshan in the distance. Swordsmanship was Qingshan's foundation. Now that he had completely unleashed it, its power was boundless. With a single sword strike, he split open the sky, split open the earth, moved mountains, filled the sea, and slew enemies.
Boom!
This sword chi surged crazily and exploded out, reaching the sky and the underworld. Qingshan had no way to evade. He stood up weakly and looked at the incoming sword. His eyes were cold and he gritted his teeth as he said, "You are very powerful. But today, you were destined to die. Ancestor, please lend a hand to help future generations."
Qingshan roared and a box flew out from his chest. The box opened and a few drops of blood spurted out.
The moment this blood appeared, it immediately caused the void to tremble.
Terrifying explosions appeared one after another.
The path of the Emperor erupted. Its trajectory was mysterious and unfathomable, and its divine might was peerless.
This was the Qingshan Emperor's blood essence.
It was a trump card that he had left for the Qingshan Emperor clan. It could only be used once. Therefore, even if the Qingshan Emperor clan had declined to the extreme, they had never used it before.
After all, the Qingshan Emperor clan would have no foundation left. If he didn't use the Emperor's blood essence, it would be very powerful.
If he kept it there, he could threaten others. However, if he used it, he would only have one chance.
He wouldn't be able to wipe out all the enemies. Boom! Boom! Boom!
At this moment, a phantom figure appeared on the Emperor's blood essence and everyone recognized it. This was the Qingshan Emperor.
The Qingshan Emperor didn't say anything. He just glanced at Qingshan and then controlled his blood essence to merge into Qingshan's body. Rumble! In the next moment, Qingshan's injuries were healed.
His aura erupted, and he was no longer just a crimson immortal. This aura burst out, causing the universe to collapse and the sea of stars to darken. Everything around Qingshan was shattered. As long as it stood in his way, everything would be destroyed. It was as if a true emperor had been resurrected.
Chapter 354, Emperor's Blood Essence.
5. Your strength is beyond my expectations. You forced the trump card of the Qingshan Emperor clan out.
It's a worthy death for Qingshan Emperor to come back and kill you. Qingshan smiled coldly.
His injuries were instantly healed. The few drops of blood essence merged into his body. At this moment, the deceased Qingshan Emperor used his body to return to the human world.
Boom!
An earth-shattering sound rang out. Behind Qingshan, a huge figure appeared. It stood in the middle of the galaxy and was extremely terrifying. The immortal emperor-level fluctuations surged within this massive figure, resembling a living emperor. At this moment, everyone knew that this was the trump card that the Qingshan Emperor had left for the Qingshan Emperor clan.
Emperor's power. Qingshan scripture. This time, the Qingshan Emperor appeared again. He controlled Qingshan's body and unleashed his own Emperor scripture. Boom!
The Emperor scripture propelled by the Qingshan Emperor himself was terrifying, causing the universe to explode, emitting a powerful aura that surged toward Qingshan, shaking the ages. Qingshan transformed into a huge millstone, crushing towards Qingshan to obliterate him. At this moment, no one believed Qingshan could escape.
Even some emperors shook their heads.
They clearly knew how big the gap between Emperor Realm and Immortal King Realm was.
Although the Qingshan Emperor had already disappeared in the past, the few drops of blood essence he left behind were the true core.
A few drops of blood essence could unleash 1% of the Qingshan Emperor's power in a short time.
1% of an emperor's power was enough to defeat an immortal king.
Seeing this, Taoist Dragon and Hua Shangrong were both shocked.
That's what I'm worried about.
The descendants of the Emperor clan have these trump cards.
Li Qingshan is in trouble now. Taoist Dragon slapped his thigh and said. What do we do now? Hua Xiangrong asked worriedly. There's no other way. Qingshan Ling has already sacrificed the Emperor's blood essence.
We can only trust Li Qingshan now.
Taoist Dragon shook his head and said.
But that's an emperor, Hua Xiangrong looked on worriedly. At this moment, divine sequence chains suddenly flew out of Li Qingshan's body. These divine sequence chains combined with the surrounding great path flowers, and they were all like stars, shining brightly. They turned into bright, dark, and bright great paths that surged forward and collided with the Qingshan scripture.
Rumble.
This collision directly shattered the starry sky. The laws of the earth surged and covered the surroundings. Like the roar of chaos, the sound was vast, and the wind was fierce, as if a new world was being created, directly reducing many distant stars to powder, and vast starry regions dimmed. This collision caused Li Qingshan to step back several steps. He looked at the Qingshan Emperor's phantom with a serious expression and suddenly laughed.
You want to scare me off with just a few drops of blood essence? That's wishful thinking.
Even if you use the Qingshan Emperor's blood essence and have the so-called Emperor power, you're just a weakling in my eyes.
How can you control the Emperor power with such a frail body? Arrogant! Qingshan Ling shouted.
Behind him, a shadow whose face couldn't be seen was thousands of feet tall, looking down at Li Qingshan. Your name is carved on the Three Realms monument, and life and death are written on the path of reincarnation. I, Li Qingshan, have never fought against an emperor. Even if it's just a few drops of blood essence, I'll grant you death if you dare to unleash it, Li Qingshan said coldly.
He had no intention of retreating. Instead, he took a step forward. A lotus flower appeared under his feet, representing the great path of lotus.
Stepping on the great paths, Li Qingshan's energy was fully restored in his body, activating all the great path laws. At this moment, all of them flew out and turned into a mighty god statue. It was as if they had crossed the ancient universe and came from the source of the world. The 3,000 great paths existed since the birth of the world. Now that Li Qingshan had comprehended them one by one, he naturally saw the scenes of the past. So what if you have emperor power? I, Li Qingshan, will kill you with all my might today. Li Qingshan shouted loudly.
He didn't stay any longer and strode forward aggressively.
His aura was unparalleled. The great paths coiled around him and shook the stars in the sky. The great paths let out excited sounds and floated under his feet. All the great paths complemented Li Qingshan, making him look like a god or a demon.
How can you possess so many great paths? Qingshan Ling was dumbfounded. Just carefully comprehend it. At this moment, I'm going to sublimate to the extreme. Come and face death.
Li Qingshan opened his arms and said coldly.
He wanted to do something unprecedented. To confront an emperor at the immortal king realm. Although the Qingshan Emperor had long since fallen, his blood essence could stimulate earth energy.
This was something that everyone acknowledged. In this way, Li Qingshan could be considered to have defeated the emperor.
Arrogant! Qingshan Ling was furious.
His anger erupted, and he had enough confidence now.
The great ancestor's blood essence was burned. How could he not take down a small Li Qingshan?
Chapter 355, Traveling through the Green Mountains, one remains forever young. 1. Qingshan Ling was injected with the blood essence of the emperor. Behind him, a huge phantom of the Qingshan Emperor appeared. He operated the Qingshan scripture and absorbed the energy in the starry sky, covering Li Qingshan.
Within the Qingshan scripture, a rain of immortality flew out and transformed into various symbols that were imprinted in the void.
They became the carriers of the great paths and entrusted the emperor energy. Rumbling sounds could be heard as heaven and earth resonated with the emperor. In just an instant, all living beings in the world sensed it and were intoxicated. They also comprehended a trace of the mysteries of the Qingshan scripture. This wasn't something that could be obtained by one or two people but by a group of people. Depending on the level of cultivation level and comprehension, they gained different insights.
The Qingshan scripture was the emperor's scripture.
It was broad and profound and contained the comprehension of the Qingshan emperor's lifetime. It was so profound that ordinary people would never be able to see it in their lifetime. Now, after the battle with Qingshan, the emperor's scripture flowed and the world finally understood a little bit. Some people received a passage and sat down cross-legged as if they were enlightened. There were also people who had comprehended some difficult problems that had troubled them for many years. They danced around like crazy. This was a profound scripture that flowed through everyone's hearts like water. Many people had gained insights and were immersed in a wonderful state. This was the power of the emperor's scriptures. However, the comprehension of these people had nothing to do with the battle in the starry sky. The battle continued fiercely. Qingshan Ling bombarded Qingshan with the Qingshan scripture, directly shattering Qingshan's sword chi and continuously suppressing him. At this moment, flowers bloomed all around Qingshan. He no longer concealed his strength and went all out. He burst out with terrifying strength. The 3,000 great paths set him off like a great path divine spirit. It was very terrifying. Qingshan raised his hand, and a great path rushed out. With a buzz, the sky trembled and a star exploded. The scene was shocking. However, the Qingshan scripture wasn't to be underestimated, especially with the blood essence of an emperor. It was very terrifying and shattered Qingshan's great path. The power of the emperor and Qingshan Ling's power were worlds apart. As Qingshan covered the starry sky with his large hand, he was extremely powerful, covering Qingshan Ling and the Qingshan scripture underneath. Great path palm. Qingshan shouted coldly. He used the power of his palm to cover the 3,000 great paths. In a trance, one star after another shone brightly, and galaxies swirled around his fingers. This divine technique was extremely astonishing. The 3,000 great paths were contained in his palm and burst out as if he was splitting the heavens and earth. This hit made Qingshan Ling's body tremble violently. If it wasn't for the Qingshan scripture, he would have been beaten to death. This palm that seemed to be the size of a millstone actually contained the universe and melted the stars in the universe. It was extremely terrifying. This attack shook the Qingshan scripture. Qingshan had truly achieved the feat of confronting an emperor at the immortal king realm. When the people of the world saw this scene, they were terrified. It was too terrifying. It was difficult to imagine how shocking this scene was. In the starry sky, there was a chaotic mist and the Milky Way was reversed. Qingshan's body wasn't big, but he pressed down on the stars in the sky, causing the emperor of the immortal plane to twitch their eyelids. When they were in the immortal king realm, they weren't this powerful. This time, the few emperors in the demon realm looked even colder. They acknowledged Qingshan's strength, so they couldn't let him grow any further. It's a pity that such a genius isn't from our demon realm, a demon emperor sighed, feeling extremely regretful. In the starry sky, Qingshan shone brightly, illuminating the world. He was like a god or a demon, traversing the stars and moving freely in the starry sky. He kept emitting light, which was very beautiful. With a single thought, dominance over the world. Qingshan was unrivaled. He had used his body to resist the power of the blood essence of an emperor. 1% of the emperor's power wasn't something an ordinary crimson immortal could match. However, it wasn't a problem for Qingshan. With the support of the 3,000 great paths, Qingshan raised his hand and sent the Qingshan scripture flying. Then, he turned around and stepped on Qingshan Ling. He was so violent and powerful that it shocked the world. "This is impossible," Qingshan Ling roared in shock and let out a voice that resounded through the heavens and the immortal plane. In the immortal plane, everyone was watching, but they couldn't understand. Why was Qingshan so powerful? He was only an immortal king. Even if he was a crimson immortal, he wasn't an emperor. Since ancient times, no one had surpassed the gap between emperors and immortal kings. But now, Qingshan had shown this side of him, and it was extremely terrifying. "Why not?" Qingshan asked Qingshan Ling coldly. "This is the blood essence of an emperor." Qingshan Ling was trampled under Qingshan's feet. He was in unbearable pain. His face was red and the injuries in his body burst forth again. If it weren't for the few drops of Emperor's blood essence, he would have died long ago. "You want to crush me with just a few drops of blood?"
Aren't you thinking too simply?
Li Qingshan said coldly. Qingshan Ling looked at Li Qingshan in shock and anger. He struggled with all his might. His blood essence was burning wildly, yet it was still futile. Li Qingshan's body was like an unbreakable mountain, pressing down on him unshakably.
Stop babbling.
Take another look at this world, Li Qingshan said with a strong killing intent. The 3,000 great paths in his body surged into his body and plundered everything from Qingshan Ling.
A crimson immortal had immense energy.
There was one of the 3,000 great paths, the great path of devour. It could devour a crimson immortal and feed Li Qingshan, making his aura even stronger.
Chapter 356, Traveling Through the Green Mountains, 1 Remains Forever Young, 2, Boom. Boom. Boom.
Everyone watched as Li Qingshan killed Qingshan Ling in the starry sky, exhausting the few drops of Emperor's blood essence within him. The phantom of the Qingshan Emperor also slowly disappeared. In the end, Li Qingshan felt as if the Qingshan Emperor glanced at him as if he was conscious. Li Qingshan stood in the starry sky and looked at the Qingshan Emperor, who had disappeared into thin air. He then looked at Qingshan Ling, who had been devoured by the sky and disappeared with the Qingshan Emperor.
Does the Qingshan Emperor still have consciousness? Li Qingshan frowned.
Logically speaking, the Qingshan Emperor only fused his blood essence into Qingshan Ling's body, allowing him to obtain a huge amount of energy. The Qingshan Emperor has long died. With the 5 decays of heaven and man, there shouldn't be such a thing as consciousness. But just now, when Qingshan Ling was devoured and already dead, the Qingshan Emperor's last glance was still directed at me. These Emperor are indeed terrifying. They are so mysterious and hard to explain. In the end, Li Qingshan shook his head. He couldn't figure it out, so he decided not to think about it. To him, the Qingshan Emperor was already in the past. After finishing his task, Li Qingshan wanted to return to the human world. This time, he was in the limelight, and he was worried that it would attract the Emperor's attention. However, just as he was about to leave the starry sky and return to the immortal plane, a huge hand suddenly slapped over from a distant spacetime.
Rumble. This aura was very terrifying, much more frightening than Qingshan Ling's activation of the Emperor's blood essence.
The terrifying hand tore through the starry sky and descended. It was incomparably huge and covered the entire galaxy. It reached out and squeezed, wanting to kill Li Qingshan.
It's an Emperor making a move. Li Qingshan's heart sank. As he had suspected, he had indeed attracted the Emperor's attack.
There was no need to guess where the black hand came from.
The extremely dense demonic chi in the aura was clearly an Emperor from the demon realm. The enmity between the demon realm and the celestial court was uncountable.
It had existed from the very beginning. Whether it was the people of the celestial court or the demon realm, as long as they joined, they would bear the original sin.
The demon clan Emperor wants to kill Li Qingshan.
Frightened, Taoist Dragon roared out in panic.
What should we do?
This is an Emperor, Hua Shangrong said anxiously.
Would Li Qingshan be able to survive if an Emperor attacked?
Taoist Dragon was very anxious. He didn't want anything to happen to Li Qingshan, but facing an Emperor. He bit his lips and was very anxious.
Should he?
At this moment, all the major forces watched calmly.
Many people weren't surprised that an Emperor would make a move.
Li Qingshan was indeed an unprecedented genius, but like a tall tree standing in the wind.
Those who were too outstanding needed to undergo the tribulation.
It was the tribulation of the world of mortals. If he passed through it, he would stand at the peak of the world. If he failed, he would be no more than a hero of the moment. It was obvious that Li Qingshan was about to face his tribulations. When he discovered the big black hand, his face darkened. He had long sensed that someone would come to eliminate him, a genius of the immortal court.
Rumble.
The Emperor's aura was extremely terrifying. It made the starry sky tremble, the Milky Way fold, and the great path submit. He grabbed with his big hand and was about to crush Li Qingshan to death. Even though Li Qingshan had just killed Qingshan Ling and destroyed the blood essence of an emperor, he was now facing a real emperor. More than 3,000 flowers bloomed around him like a distant shore, transcending the mundane, trying to resist this attack.
Gotcha.
However, under the Emperor's overwhelming momentum, Qingshan's 3,000 great pathflowers were shattered.
Qingshan's body shook violently. He couldn't believe it. A real emperor is so terrifying?
This feeling was akin to what Qingshan Ling had felt when facing Qingshan earlier. They were both invincible.
Qingshan immediately wanted to retreat.
He circulated the great path of space to the extreme, but he found that the space was confined and the great paths couldn't go out.
He couldn't escape. At this moment, Qingshan's heart sank and fell to the bottom. This was his first battle against an emperor.
With just one arm, Qingshan had nowhere to run. He struggled to resist the emperor.
You should be proud that an emperor came to kill you personally.
A cold voice sounded in Qingshan's ears, making him gnash his teeth in hatred.
You want me to be proud of you for killing me? I'm proud of your entire family.
Qingshan cursed.
Humph, arrogant youth, you know not the gravity of your situation, the emperor said coldly.
He clenched his fist and held the starry sky in his palm. There was nowhere to escape.
Qingshan was trapped in this world. He tried many methods, but none of them worked. The big clock represented the time law.
The giant sword had lost its power and was constantly repairing itself. The Trikaya Buddhist scriptures and the 6 paths of samsara were also silent at this moment. Qingshan could only rely on the 3,000 great paths. However, the 3,000 great paths were only in the immortal king realm and couldn't match an emperor.
Qingshan was in a precarious situation.
The giant palm continued to shrink, and the world in the palm continued to collapse.
The surroundings cracked inch by inch. Everyone watched, and many people felt pity.
Such a genius, about to fall because of his affiliation with the Celestial Court.
Where are the people from the Celestial Court? Can't they save him? The Emperor of the Demon Clan made a move. Where are the emperors from the Celestial Court? If Qingshan isn't saved now, it's a loss of face. Who would dare to join the Celestial Court in the future? Don't even think about it. The Celestial Court is now completely crippled. Even the Gauchan Emperor is dead. Can we expect the remaining 2 emperors to the Celestial Court couldn't even protect such a talented person? It's simply embarrassing. All kinds of discussions came.
They were all disappointed with the Celestial Court. Chapter 357, Traveling through the Green Mountains, 1 remains forever young. 3, there was an endless debate within the Celestial Court.
Hurry up and get the Emperor to intervene. Qingshan can't die. He's the hope of the Celestial Court, a crimson immortal roar. The Ziwei Emperor has entered the endless void to enlightenment. We are unable to contact him, the elderly from the Ziwei Emperor clan said. What about the Jade Emperor? Someone asked anxiously.
For the sake of the future of the Celestial Court, they had to protect Qingshan.
Our ancestor told us not to contact him as long as the Celestial Court isn't on the verge of destruction, the descendants of the Jade Emperor said calmly.
When one of the Crimson Immortals saw this, his heart trembled, and he felt a chill run down his spine. Could such a Celestial Court be saved? He looked at Qingshan in the starry sky with a trace of pity in his eyes.
If this was in other forces, wouldn't the various immortal emperors join forces to protect him?
Only in the Celestial Court, the purportedly greatest power in the immortal plane, no one dared to save him. While the Celestial Court was quarreling, Taoist Dragon, who was far away in the Qingshan Emperor clan, looked up at the starry sky with a dark face.
What should we do? What should we do? How can we save brother-in-law? Hua Shangrong said anxiously. She was at a loss and didn't know what to do. That was an emperor. Who can rival an emperor? Should they just watch as her brother-in-law faces death?
Hua Shangrong turned to Taoist Dragon, who was standing beside her, and found that Taoist Dragon was frowning all the time, with a complicated look on his face.
What's wrong? Hua Shangrong asked.
I will send you away first, then I will go to the starry sky to save Qingshan, Taoist Dragon said in a low voice, then waved his hand and created a space channel in front of him.
You're only at the first level of the Immortal King Realm, Ancient Immortal Realm. How are you going to save brother-in-law? Hua Shangrong looked at Taoist Dragon in confusion. You'll know later. Taoist Dragon reached out his hand and patted Hua Shangrong, sending her into the space channel. The other end of the channel was far away from the Qingshan Emperor clan, so Hua Shangrong wouldn't be in danger. At the other end of the channel, there were still a few people waiting for Hua Shangrong. Then, Taoist Dragon looked at the starry sky and sighed. I thought we could barely hold on and see the revival of the Celestial Court. But now, it seems that we're out of time. In the starry sky, Qingshan was trapped in a region. The Emperor's palms slowly gathered. It seemed that in the next moment, he would be completely crushed. At the brink of death. However, at this moment, a faint immortal voice suddenly sounded. It was like a song and a cry, causing the starry sky to tremble. An old man appeared under the starry sky filled with Emperor energy. The old man's face was full of wrinkles and his body was weak. At first glance, he was only at the first level of the Immortal King realm, an ancient immortal. However, upon closer inspection, this was just an illusion. In the old man's body resided a deteriorated and fragmented soul, like a broken mirror pieced back together. Taoist Dragon. Qingshan looked on in surprise at the critical moment. A mere immortal king dares to save Qingshan? A disdainful voice sounded in the starry sky. It rumbled. It was the voice of an emperor. Taoist Dragon came from a distance at a high speed. His body was glowing, and his face was calm. However, with every step he took, the great path of heaven and earth resonated, and the stars in the sky trembled. The light on his body grew brighter. During this process, the layer of Immortal King realm on his surface faded away, revealing a withered body and a soul full of cracks. Seeing this, Qingshan was extremely surprised. He didn't expect that Taoist Dragon's inner core could be so desolate. His withered body and cracked soul showed that Taoist Dragon must have experienced terrible things in the past. I actually misjudged you. You're the genius who nearly broke through to the Emperor realm tens of thousands of years ago in the Celestial Court? The giant starry hand that was slowly gathering suddenly stopped. It wasn't in a hurry to kill Qingshan. The voice of this demon clan emperor came from the starry sky again. He recognized Taoist Dragon. Taoist Dragon almost broke through to Emperor realm? Qingshan was very surprised. He had known Taoist Dragon for so many years, but he had never heard of it. Demon Nine Heavens, release Qingshan, Taoist Dragon said calmly. You're just a person who failed to break through to Emperor realm. How dare you say such words in front of me? Demon Nine Heavens was disdainful. The Celestial Court is truly pathetic. Qingshan is such a genius, yet you, a loser, came to save him. Those two emperors are living like cowards, Demon Nine Heaven mocked with a sneer. Demon Nine Heavens, release Qingshan, Taoist Dragon repeated. You forcefully broke through to the Emperor realm and suffered a backlash. It's already fortunate enough that you managed to salvage your life. Instead of continuing to linger and strive in your later years, you now forcefully ascend, wanting to return to your peak. But what's the use? You haven't even broken through to Emperor realm at your peak. What right do you have to say that in front of me? Demon Nine Heavens said coldly. In fact, I didn't fail to break through back then, Taoist Dragon said suddenly. What do you mean? Demon Nine Heavens said with a strange tone. Back then, I also stepped into the Emperor realm. Taoist Dragon declared firmly. Boom! The blood in his body flowed at this moment, and the sound was clear and audible. It was like a surging river, like a raging ocean splitting the sky. At this moment, Taoist Dragon had a shocking change. He kept walking forward, and every step he took seemed to be going against the flow of time. In the river of time, Taoist Dragon walked, going upstream, and his body became young again, radiating vitality once more. The soul that had been stuck together gradually became smooth and rounded. Chapter 358, Traveling Through the Green Mountains, One Remains Forever Young. 4. Don't do this. Qingshan's eyes were blurry, and he felt a pain in his heart. He knew what Taoist Dragon was doing at the moment. He was sacrificing himself, returning to his peak. He was saving Qingshan.
This old Taoist was forcefully refining the essence of the past, walking against time and restoring himself to his most formidable state of yore. He aimed to fight the emperor and save Qingshan. The consequence of this action would be Taoist Dragon's sacrifice. Perhaps it was a moment, perhaps 3 minutes, but Taoist Dragon would turn into dust, body and spirit annihilated, never to exist again. At this moment, Qingshan finally realized how powerful Taoist Dragon was in the past. Qingshan was now known as the #1 genius of the Celestial Court. In the past, this title belonged to Taoist Dragon. He had encountered the Gauchan Emperor before. He had reached the peak of the Crimson Immortal level, and he had begun to comprehend the Tao, transcend the tribulation, and break through to the Emperor realm. However, for some reason, Taoist Dragon failed in his attempt to become an emperor. He suffered a backlash, his body withered, and his soul shattered. Fortunately, he managed to piece together the remnants of his soul and narrowly escaped death. From then on, Taoist Dragon established the Celestial Court Academy and lived in seclusion in the mountains, cultivating all kinds of talents for the Celestial Court. Until he met Qingshan. He saw his own shadow in Qingshan, but he knew that Qingshan wasn't him. Qingshan was Qingshan. Later on, as he got to know Qingshan more, he understood that Qingshan's talent was terrifyingly strong, far above his. Taoist Dragon developed a fondness for talent and wholeheartedly helped Qingshan grow rapidly, intending to save the Celestial Court in the final moment. To complete what he had failed to do back then. Taoist Dragon thought that he would be able to witness that scene with his broken body. But now the situation was dire, with Qingshan's life hanging by a thread. He had to save Qingshan. Therefore, he tried his best to sublimate. Walking against the river of time, returning to the peak of the past. Taoist Dragon had said himself that he had once entered the Emperor realm. Although it was extremely brief, the moment he recovered, saved Qingshan and fought with Demon Nine Heavens. At this moment, Taoist Dragon had reached the highest limit. For this battle, he walked in reverse time and entered the state of his past. Do you dare to fight me? Taoist Dragon looked at Demon Nine Heavens in the demon realm, his voice calm, devoid of anger or sorrow, only confidence. He, Taoist Dragon, was once an emperor. As soon as he finished speaking, Taoist Dragon flicked his finger and released a stream of terrifying energy, colliding with the giant hand that covered the entire starry sky. Boom! The giant hand was shattered instantly. Qingshan was saved, and he immediately came to Taoist Dragon's side. Hurry up and withdraw. Don't sublimate it to the extreme, Qingshan said anxiously. Taoist Dragon smiled gently. Remember to take care of the Celestial Court for me in the future. You take care of it yourself. Don't push yourself to the limit. Let's leave quickly. Qingshan was very anxious. It's too late. I'll send you away. Remember this day and toast me every year in the future. Actually, I prefer drinking wine. Tea doesn't do it for me, Taoist Dragon said to Qingshan secretly. He blinked his eyes, then grabbed Qingshan and gently pushed him. The space exploded, and Qingshan fell into the endless void and disappeared into the starry sky. In the starry sky, only Taoist Dragon, who had reached the highest level, remained. He took a step forward. His face was filled with an astonishing brilliance. He was extremely confident as he shouted, "Do you dare to fight me?" Everyone in the Immortal Plane realm knew that Taoist Dragon was shouting at Demon Nine Heavens of the Demon Clan. A brief push to the limit, entering the realm of the Emperor, and you dare to battle with me? A cold shout came from the demon realm. Do you dare? Taoist Dragon put his hands behind his back and asked directly. At this moment, everyone held their breath and watched. If someone else said that, they would surely scoff. However, Taoist Dragon walked against the flow of time and returned to the moment of his peak. At this moment, he was an emperor. An emperor challenging an emperor. It was highly anticipated. Taoist Dragon's words echoed across the starry sky. His body grew younger and younger, and light shone in all directions. Step by step, he walked toward the demon realm in the starry sky. His old and turbid eyes shone with a shocking light. In the end, the body that had lost its vitality disappeared. The old face changed, and in its place was a body full of vitality. It was majestic and transcended the world. Taoist dragon truly returned to his youth. This scene made Qingshan's eyes ache. He hated himself for being weak. "Alright, I'll fight you." Demon 9 heavens of the demon realm agreed. In the next second, the world rumbled as his true body left the demon realm and descended into the starry sky with unparalleled momentum. "I didn't expect that you would survive such a difficult tribulation back then. Instead, you're sending yourself to your death today?" Demon 9 heavens asked Taoist dragon in confusion. Anyone with eyes could see that Taoist dragon was doing his best for Qingshan. He could have chosen not to save Qingshan and continue to live in the immortal plane. Especially when no one from the celestial court made a move, Taoist dragon did his best to save Qingshan. "I don't want to die either, but you left me no choice but to do so," said Taoist dragon. "For the sake of a young man whose potential to break through to the Emperor realm is unknown, you're willing to do this?" Demon 9 heavens said coldly. "He is hope," Taoist dragon said firmly. Demon 9 heavens looked at Taoist dragon, shook his head, and said nothing. He knew that convincing an emperor was extremely difficult. Emperor realm experts had been through many hardships and had cultivated all the way here. The ideals they believed in would never change. Therefore, there was no need for further words. The two emperors instantly exchanged blows. Boom! This battle erupted, and the result was shocking. Traveling through the Green Mountains, one remains forever young. Taoist dragon's chi engulfed the 9 nether and pierced through the mountains and rivers, unleashing his magnum opus. As a young emperor, albeit for only a moment, he overwhelmed Demon 9 heavens and caused blood to splatter in the starry sky. The battle between the two emperors, especially the life and death battle, was different from the battle between Qingshan and Crimson Immortal. They directly shot into the depths of the starry sky, traversing countless star domains. Their aura shook the immortal plane until they disappeared. The world could no longer see them, but they could feel the endless battle ruins. They were vast and terrifying. This battle came and ended quickly. The two emperors rushed into the depths of the starry sky. A rare battle broke out. After a while, only Demon 9 heavens of the demon clan returned. He held his chest and entered the demon realm without saying a word. As for whether Taoist dragon was alive or dead, he didn't answer. However, people guessed that Taoist dragon had died in battle. From that day on, Taoist dragon never showed up again. Under the watchful eyes of millions of people, Taoist dragon perished in place of Qingshan. Chapter 359, Taoist Dragons Past. 1. After the battle between Taoist Dragon and Demon 9 heavens ended, the starry sky calmed down, and the turmoil disappeared. For many people, this was an exciting day. First, they witnessed the battle between the two Crimson Immortals. Qingshan defeated Qingshan Ling of the Qingshan Emperor clan in a dominating manner, claiming his name as a genius. He also attracted the Demon Clan Emperor to cross space and come to the starry sky to kill him. Then, the world saw the most stunning genius of the celestial court from tens of thousands of years ago. He appeared out of thin air, went against time and space, and returned to the peak. In a short moment, he stood at the Emperor realm and fought with Demon 9 heavens of the Demon Clan. It was like a gorgeous firework that stunned the world, but it disappeared in an instant. In the vast starry sky, countless stars became fragments. Hanging galaxies evaporated on the spot and turned into dust. Many stars were shattered and many galaxies were destroyed. In the depths of the starry sky, the blood of emperors flowed. No one knew the details of this battle, but everyone saw Demon 9 heavens' exhausted expression and his body covered in wounds when he returned. Some people said that at the last moment, Taoist dragon reached the peak of sublimation and then fell into darkness and disappeared forever. There were also people who said that they saw a ball of great path fire burning at the end of the starry sky, destroying all traces. But no matter what, Taoist dragon had disappeared. After this battle, he never appeared again. At the end of his life, he saved Qingshan and sent him away without being discovered by the other emperors. This storm lasted for a few days before it quickly dimmed, but many debates continued. For example, the replacement of the young emperor ranking. After the battle, the rankings were changed and spread to the world. Previously, Qingshan ranked 10th, which was acceptable at first, but given his absence for many years and lack of news, people began to question whether he deserved that position. This ranking was updated in time, directly raising Qingshan from 10th place to 1st place. It suppressed the chaos physique, the phoenix's daughter, and the demonic divine concubine. Now, there was no dispute about this ranking. They had witnessed Qingshan's battle achievements with their own eyes. As a Crimson Immortal, Qingshan could easily crush experts of the same level. Even the trump card left behind by the Qingshan Emperor was easily resolved by Qingshan. If the Demon Clan Emperor hadn't taken action at the end and controlled Qingshan, he would have become a god in this battle. Even the chaos physique, the phoenix's daughter, and the demonic divine concubine who were being pressed down had no complaints. Witnessing Qingshan kill Qingshan Ling in the starry sky, even the prideful chaos physique fell silent. He was no match for Qingshan. Underneath a picturesque mountain range, there was a magnificent building where the chaos physique was located. He witnessed Qingshan's battle inside. I am temporarily not as good as Qingshan. It seems that it's time for me to improve myself and stop pursuing the Tao. The chaos physique was dignified and extraordinary. He could absorb all energy, and all great paths dissolved into his body. Over the years, he had been doing this without deliberately improving his strength. He had been comprehending the Tao and absorbing all kinds of energy. He had thought that his opponents would only be the Phoenix's daughter and the demonic divine concubine. He didn't expect Qingshan to appear out of nowhere and tell others that there was always someone better. Qingshan's strength made the chaos physique take notice and awaken him. He could no longer continue to pursue the Tao but had to improve his strength. In the God realm. In the Sun family, the Phoenix's daughter stood with her hands behind her back, looking at the galaxy. She said with a strange expression, "Why do I feel that Qingshan is very familiar?" She had never even met Qingshan. She had only glanced at his name when the young emperor ranking was first arranged. It's strange. Qingshan gives me a feeling of déjà vu. If I hadn't confirmed that I'd never seen him before, I would have suspected that Qingshan had appeared beside me. The Phoenix's daughter muttered to herself. In a valley in the immortal plain where birds were singing and flowers were fragrant, a woman in a black dress had a strange expression. Qingshan, the woman said softly. It wasn't the first time she heard this name. In the depths of her memory, decades ago, it wasn't the immortal plane but the human world. She had just woken up and the first man she saw was Qingshan. She was the demonic divine concubine. The demonic divine concubine was both familiar and unfamiliar with the name Qingshan. Back in the human world, she had just woken up because of the explosion of demon chi. She was regarded as a great menace. All the large sects came in droves to set up a large array to strangle her in the cradle. At that time, the demonic divine concubine had no power. Because she had just recovered, her memories hadn't been completely restored. She was trapped in the array and couldn't do anything. In the end, she still relied on her instinctive charm to tempt a young disciple to break a corner of the array and let her out. After coming out, the demonic divine concubine found a quiet place to recuperate quietly. At the same time, she recovered her memories and strength. She had never thought of the man Qingshan who had been tempted by her and had never thought of him once. As she slowly recovered, she directly crossed the channel between the immortal and mortal realms and came to the immortal plane. After that, she cultivated all the way. From then on, Qingshan no longer existed in her world. Until the young emperor ranking appeared. Chapter 360, Taoist Dragons Past, 2, the demonic divine concubine saw the name of Qingshan, ranked 10th, and for a moment, she vaguely remembered the young man from the past. However, she didn't connect the two together at all, considering it merely a coincidence, given the vast difference between the immortal plane and the human world. It wasn't until just now when she looked up at the starry sky and witnessed this great battle, that she saw the appearance of Qingshan. The demonic divine concubine was shocked on the spot. The current Qingshan was not much different from the Qingshan in her memory. It was just that he was more calm and composed, and his strength was terrifying. In fact, he even recovered faster than her and was more powerful.
How is this possible? The demonic divine concubine couldn't understand what had happened to make an ordinary talent from the human world skyrocket in cultivation speed, even surpassing her, a reincarnation of an emperor. She was a reincarnation of an emperor, continuously practicing without stagnation, but now she had just recovered to the third level of the immortal king, the everlasting immortal realm. She was still far from the fourth level, the crimson immortal. However, Qingshan was already in the crimson immortal realm, and he easily defeated the emperor's blood essence in the battle. Their identities seemed to have been reversed. It was as if Qingshan was the reincarnation of the emperor and she was the one who was cultivating hard. Unbelievable. Qingshan is still alive. Doesn't that mean I owe him my life? The demonic divine concubine suddenly thought of something even more terrifying. She owed Qingshan her life. This was unchangeable. When Qingshan sacrificed himself to save her back then, it was because of him that the demonic divine concubine had her current strength. If Qingshan hadn't been tempted and hadn't opened the formation, the demonic divine concubine would have died, unable to live for a second life. Whether Qingshan was deceived or voluntarily, the demonic divine concubine owed him this favor. Oh no, when I break through the emperor, Qingshan will be a fatal loophole for me. The demonic divine concubine thought like this, feeling extremely regretful. With Qingshan's current strength and status, how could she repay this debt of gratitude? My head hurts, my head hurts. The demonic divine concubine held her head, feeling a headache coming on. How could she repay a life's favor? At this moment, the demonic divine concubine somewhat hoped that Qingshan would die at the hands of the emperor. That way, she wouldn't have to worry about how to repay the debt of gratitude. Immortal Plane, Celestial Court Academy. Qingshan came back with a heart full of sorrow. He hadn't expected that this time, the trip to the Qingshan Emperor clan would sacrifice Taoist Dragon to save Little Nine and the others. At the moment when Taoist Dragon ascended to his peak, Qingshan's eyes turned red, and he couldn't help but shed tears. For Qingshan, after coming to the immortal plane, the two people who were the best to him had passed away one after another. The first one was General Bai. He saw Qingshan as his big brother's shadow. He loved him and would help Qingshan unconditionally. The second was Taoist Dragon. He regarded Qingshan as the savior of the celestial court. Every once in a while, he would tell Qingshan some strange stories about the celestial court. He wanted to move Qingshan so that he could save the celestial court in the future. Or perhaps to prevent the collapse of the great building and to reverse the desperate situation. To rebuild the glory of the celestial court, our generation must not shirk our responsibilities. But now, Big Brother Bai died in the battle at the Emperor's Pass, and Taoist Dragon perished in the starry sky. Qingshan was extremely saddened. He returned to the Celestial Court Academy and went to Taoist Dragon's usual residence. His eyes were slightly red. And his heart was filled with grief. Taoist Dragon knew his place like the back of his hand, but it was Qingshan's first time here. The place was very clean. Taoist Dragon lived alone, so it was very clean. Everything was neatly arranged, and most of the things here were books. All kinds of interesting books. Qingshan silently opened one and found that it was written by Taoist Dragon himself. It contained his insights into the great paths, his understanding of cultivation realms, and some of his insights into breaking through to the emperor. Qingshan found that tens of thousands of years ago, Taoist Dragon was in high spirits, and most of the books here were written during that period. Taoist Dragon, this is. He's writing the emperor's scripture. Qingshan looked through it carefully and came to a conclusion. Early on, Taoist Dragon broke through to the Crimson Immortal Realm, envisioning himself as an emperor. In the Crimson Immortal Realm, he began writing his emperor's scripture, believing he would inevitably become an emperor. In several books, Qingshan saw Taoist Dragon express his love for the Celestial Court. His love for the Celestial Court was truly ingrained in his bones. Sir Qingshan. Suddenly, a shout interrupted Qingshan. He turned around and saw a white-haired old man. Same plane, lifespan immortal realm. Qingshan looked at him strangely and asked, "You are?" I am Mu Ran, the Dean of the Celestial Court Academy. Mu Ran introduced himself. Taoist Dragon is my master, he added. Qingshan suddenly understood. It was funny that he had entered the Celestial Court Academy for almost 20 years, but he had never even met the Dean. Why are you here? Qingshan asked. To tidy up Master's belongings, Dean Mu Ran said. Qingshan's expression dimmed. He took a step back and made way for him. Sir Qingshan, you don't have to be too sad. Master died with a smile. He definitely doesn't want you to be too sad. Dean Mu Ran looked at Qingshan and tried to persuade him. Qingshan didn't say anything. He sat in front of Taoist Dragon's room, watching Mu Ran tidy up inside. After a long while, Mu Ran carefully packed up all of Taoist Dragon's lifelong efforts, then walked out. Tell me about Taoist Dragon, Qingshan asked in a deep voice. He suddenly realized that he knew nothing about Taoist Dragon. Chapter 361, Taoist Dragon's Past. 3. Qingshan didn't know anything about Taoist Dragon's past, his experiences, or his preferences. Mu Ran nodded, sitting across from Qingshan, and said, actually, Master hasn't been happy for tens of thousands of years. Qingshan looked at Mu Ran, puzzled, and asked, but he often smiles, doesn't he? That's because of you, Mu Ran said directly. Qingshan looked at Mu Ran in confusion. Master had a miserable childhood. He came from a poor background, his family was destitute, and neither of his parents was immortal. Even though life in the immortal plane meant no worries about food and clothing, it also meant no prospects. Moreover, frequent battles among immortals often affected innocent people, and no one dared to seek revenge against those experts. My master grew up in such an environment, but he is so talented. His parents didn't have any resources and sent him to some big sect. He came to the Celestial Court by himself. Master said that the first time he came to the Celestial Court, what he saw was prosperity. Even weak cultivators like his parents, who were not immortals, could live peacefully under the protection of the Celestial Court. With guards and patrols, the Celestial Court prevented top experts from causing trouble to those weaker cultivators. For him, that was the happiest moment. After settling his parents, he diligently cultivated and advanced. He learned a lot of advanced knowledge from the Celestial Court, improved his worldview, and understood the importance of unity and protecting the weaker cultivators in order to maintain the Celestial Court's stability. Master said that the majority in the immortal plane were not those high-ranking experts but ordinary people. As long as the Celestial Court existed, these ordinary people would be protected. This is called having 1,000 mansions to live in, making everyone happy under the sky. Master had always worked hard like this. Mu Ran spoke with a hint of sadness. Qingshan closed his eyes, feeling sorrowful. Taoist Dragon seemed carefree on the surface, occasionally unreliable, but who would have known he was once an idealistic youth? What happened to your master later? Qingshan asked with his eyes closed. Later on, Master climbed the mountain of cultivation. When he was 100 years old, he broke through to the immortal king realm, shocking the Celestial Court and attracting the attention of the Qingshan Emperor. He then met his master. At that time, I had just become my master's disciple. That was the only time in my life that I had seen my master smile so happily. Master communicated with the Qingshan Emperor for 7 days. 7 days later, he returned and worked even harder. He began to seriously organize his life, writing all kinds of documents to record his growth. This process took 300 years. 300 years later, Master broke through to become a Crimson Immortal. In the Crimson Immortal realm, Master became the most popular genius in the Celestial Court. Countless people wanted to recruit him, but he refused to join any one of them. He only worked under the Qingshan Emperor. At that time, Master tried his best to modify the heavenly rules of the Celestial Court, believing they had become outdated and needed reform to adapt to the new era. Because of this, Master offended a group of descendants from the Emperor clan. They accused Master of ruining the foundation of the Celestial Court. But Master ignored them and continued to do his own thing. He stayed in the center of the Celestial Court for hundreds of years. During this period, I saw Master's emotional decline with my own eyes.
In the end, he seemed to have lost confidence in the celestial court and voluntarily withdrew. He began to cultivate diligently, preparing to break through to the Emperor realm. It's just that I wasn't by his side on the night he broke through. He seemed to have encountered great trouble. I didn't know at the time, but I later saw an autobiography written by my master. He said that the Qingshan Emperor came that night and repaired his shattered soul, saving his life. Since then, Master founded the Celestial Court Academy and appointed me as the dean. He was completely silent, neither happy nor sad. I never saw him get excited again. Until he met you. Muran looked at Qingshan blankly, his eyes full of envy. He also wanted his master to be excited for him. He also wanted his master to be happy for him and proud of him. However, with his talent, he would only be in the immortal king realm in this lifetime. He wouldn't be able to meet his master's requirements. What does Taoist dragon see in me? Qingshan asked in confusion. When he first came to the Celestial Court Academy, his cultivation level was very low. Master's special treatment of you made me very confused. I once asked Master what he valued about you. Master told me that he saw hope in you. I still remember that time when Master brought you back from the prodigy battlefield. He smiled so happily. It has been tens of thousands of years since he had been so happy. The last time he was so happy was when the Qingshan Emperor met with Master. That's why I said that Master will protect you no matter what. I only hope that you won't let Master down. Muran stood up and took out a book written by Taoist Dragon and handed it to Qingshan. This is Master's diary. He rarely writes. Only when something big happens will he record it. Take a look. Muran placed the book on the table and left. Qingshan sat alone and looked at the yellowed diary. He reached out and opened the first page. The first page recorded the meeting with the Qingshan Emperor. This diary was filled with the excitement of a young man. It could be seen from the writing that he had met his idol and the strongest group of people in the immortal plane. Taoist Dragon was truly high-spirited in his youth. Chapter 362, Taoist Dragon's Past, 4, Qingshan flipped through the second diary entry. It detailed internal conflicts within the Celestial Court, shedding the naivety of youth and expressing deep concerns about the state of the Celestial Court. Taoist Dragon worried that if the Celestial Court continued to develop according to ancient rules, it would inevitably lead to its demise. The third entry continued to focus on internal conflicts within the Celestial Court, with every word reflecting deep concern. Qingshan could sense the young man who was deeply entangled in the Celestial Court's internal turmoil, tirelessly writing and feeling overwhelmed. The fourth entry. The fifth entry. All the way until the 10th diary entry was about the internal affairs of the Celestial Court. It could be seen that Taoist Dragon had tried his best to revitalize the Celestial Court. However, in the 11th diary entry, Qingshan saw Taoist Dragon's despair. I can't build a new Celestial Court with a group of insects. If I want to rebuild a new order, I have to break the old order and rebuild the universe. This requires the power of an emperor. From this diary, it was evident that Taoist Dragon was utterly disappointed with the group of mediocre people in the Celestial Court. He no longer hoped to improve the Celestial Court through institutional reforms, but wanted to strike them down. I'm an immortal king and I'm trying to reform the Celestial Court. If you guys try to stop me, what if I'm an immortal emperor? Would you still dare to stop me? Even the Jade Emperor would have to think twice to stop him, right? After figuring out this, Taoist Dragon began to cultivate wholeheartedly. He wanted to break through to the Emperor realm. Qingshan continued to flip to the 12th diary entry. There was a sentence written on it. Breakthrough failed. So, the Celestial Court has such a secret? Qingshan frowned. What secrets could there be within the Celestial Court? And how are they related to Taoist Dragon's failed breakthrough? He suppressed the doubts in his heart and flipped through the next diary entry. There were only a few words in this diary. I have found new hope. This should have been written recently. The span between the 12th and the 13th entries is tens of thousands of years. Li Qingshan suddenly realized that Taoist Dragon had lost all hope, idling away his days at the Celestial Court Academy. He didn't care much about the outside world. Until he met Li Qingshan, he saw hope. A young man who was more talented than him, with a clean background and a simple personality, and he belonged to the Celestial Court. This was simply a gift from the heavens to solve the problem of the Celestial Court. Therefore Taoist Dragon regarded Li Qingshan as extremely important. Even if it meant sacrificing his life, he would protect Li Qingshan. After reading the diary, Li Qingshan let out a breath of turbid air. He was sad. He wanted to continue reading the diary, but there was no more, and there would never be another in the future. Li Qingshan put away the diary and looked around. He wiped a tear from the corner of his eye and said, "Taoist Dragon, your wish will come true." Li Qingshan returned to the cliff. His heart was heavy. He wanted to be alone for a while, but on the peak of the mountain, a woman had spotted Li Qingshan early. She screamed and excitedly rushed toward Li Qingshan. Brother, it had been more than 10 years since Li Qingshan had heard such an intimate and sweet call. It invigorated Li Qingshan's spirit. That's right, Little Nine and the others had ascended. Because of Taoist Dragon's sacrifice, he had been overwhelmed with grief, forgetting about this. Seeing Little Nine pouncing over, Li Qingshan opened his arms. In the next second, Little Nine rushed into Li Qingshan's arms and hugged him excitedly as she said, "Brother, brother, brother." It had been almost 20 years since they last met, and Little Nine's longing for him had long overflowed. She hugged Li Qingshan and leaned against his chest, unable to control her tears. She had never been separated from her brother for so long. She really missed her brother. Li Qingshan suppressed the sadness in his heart and smiled gently. He patted Little Nine's back and said gently, "You're already a big girl. Why are you still crying? How can you get married in the future?" Little Nine used Li Qingshan's clothes to wipe her tears and snot. She grumbled. "If I can't get married, you'll take care of me for the rest of my life. I'll be an old spinster for life." Li Qingshan felt very warm in his heart. He said to Little Nine, "All right, I'll take care of you for the rest of your life. If you don't want to get married, I won't force you. Brother, I really missed you in the human world. I was worried that you would encounter danger in the immortal plane, but I thought that you were such a genius and would definitely make a name for yourself in the immortal plane." As expected, as soon as I came to the immortal plane, I saw dominating as an immortal king. Little Nine raised its head and looked at Li Qingshan proudly. The bright smile on its face cleared away the haze in Li Qingshan's heart. "You still dare to say that? You were almost forced into the bridal chamber." Li Qingshan reached out and pinched Little Nine's nose as he said angrily, "Then this is my first time in the immortal plane. I don't know much about this place." "I believe whatever they say," Little Nine said aggrievedly. "All right, stop clinging to me. The others are watching," Li Qingshan said. Only then did Little Nine reluctantly leave Li Qingshan's arms. Then, a white light scuttled into Li Qingshan's arms, and its big tail wrapped around Li Qingshan. "Little fox, you haven't transformed yet," Li Qingshan said in surprise. He didn't expect that the little fox hadn't transformed even though it was already in the immortal realm. "I miss you so much." The little fox didn't answer Li Qingshan. Instead, it licked Li Qingshan's palm and said in a dependent manner. Li Qingshan reached out and rubbed the little fox's fur as he said, "I missed you too. Why did you take so long? I thought you would have ascended a few years ago." Little Nine said helplessly, "We have to do it perfectly. The speed of the 5 ghosts' breakthrough is a little slow. We have to wait for them." The 5 ghosts were tall. He looked ashamed. He looked at Li Qingshan and said, "Master." Li Qingshan looked at the 5 ghosts. They were creatures he had created with his own hands. Now, they were all in the immortal realm. It was unbelievable. Thinking back to the repentance cliff in the human world, the 5 ghosts were just a bunch of thoughts. No one expected that the 5 ghosts would become immortals now. "You came just in time. This cliff of mine has been unattended for many years. It will belong to you in the future." Li Qingshan smiled calmly and said while holding the little fox, The 5 ghosts were delighted and quickly agreed.
They were extremely happy.
Now, they could follow behind Qingshan again. The feeling of the past had returned once again.
Lastly, Qingshan looked at Away.
Away looked guilty and said, "Sir, this time it's my fault.
I made a mistake, causing you to venture alone and leading to the downfall of your friend." Qingshan smiled gently and patted Away, saying, "It's not your fault. There are many coincidences in the world, and they are all unintentional mistakes. It's fine as long as you are safe. Now, cultivate well.
When you come to the immortal plane, make good use of your talents.
You're a disciple I have high hopes for." "Sir, I will." Away nodded firmly.
He knew that Qingshan was comforting him, so he didn't try to be pretentious. Qingshan carried the little fox in his arms, and little Nine followed behind him. He looked at the 5 ghosts, Away, and Hua Xiangrong.
"Let me introduce you. This is Hua Xiangrong."
Qingshan extended his hand and introduced Hua Xiangrong. Little Nine and the others looked at Hua Xiangrong.
"Hello, Little Nine.
Your brother is my brother-in-law," Hua Xiangrong said with a smile.
Little Nine looked at Qingshan in astonishment. "Brother, I have a sister-in-law?" The little fox in Qingshan's arms immediately looked at Hua Xiangrong warily, and then at Qingshan with regret. She knew it.
They were separated by a world. As expected, there was another woman who had seduced her most beloved master. The little fox was so angry that she wanted to scratch someone, but she couldn't bear to hurt Qingshan. She could only stare at Qingshan sulkily. The 5 ghosts in Away also looked on in surprise. However, Qingshan remained calm and unruffled.
He said, "You do have a sister-in-law. I just don't know where she is now." Chapter 363, The Way to Resurrect Taoist Dragon?
1. Little Nine was puzzled by Qingshan's words.
What did it mean to have a sister-in-law but not know where she was? "Brother, what does my sister-in-law look like? Is she beautiful?" Little Nine asked curiously.
"I don't know," Qingshan shook his head.
"Why don't you know?"
Little Nine found it hard to understand, thinking that Qingshan just didn't want to say.
"All right, this is brother's matter. Don't ask anymore." Qingshan didn't want to answer these questions.
The matter between him and Hua Yun couldn't be explained in a few words, and he wasn't in the mood to explain it now. "Since you've already come to the immortal plane, then stay here and cultivate well to improve yourself. That's what matters," Qingshan said seriously.
"I understand."
Seeing Qingshan become serious, Little Nine could only obediently agree.
"Sister Little Nine, you can stay with me.
I live on the mountain next door, surrounded by flowers.
The scenery is pleasant. Don't disturb brother-in-law. Let him have some peace and quiet." Hua Xiangrong held Little Nine's hand and said affectionately. Little Nine didn't answer.
Instead, she looked at Qingshan.
Qingshan nodded calmly.
There was indeed no problem living with Hua Xiangrong. "Away, you and the 5 ghosts can live in the distant bamboo forest, build a hut, and cultivate quietly.
If you don't understand anything, come and ask me."
Qingshan pointed to the bamboo forest in the distance.
"Yes, sir." Away immediately agreed and led the 5 ghosts away to build their bamboo hut. "Sister Little Nine, let me bring you to see the sea of flowers."
Seeing this, Hua Xiangrong pulled Little Nine and left together. She could tell that Qingshan needed some peace and quiet.
Little Nine could also tell and obediently left with Hua Xiangrong.
She really wanted to ask Hua Xiangrong about the relationship between her brother and her sister-in-law.
Only Qingshan and the little fox were left on the mountain peak.
The little fox looked at Qingshan and massaged his chest with its little paws.
It said softly, "Are you unhappy?"
Qingshan lay back in his chair, closed his eyes, and said, "I just want some peace and quiet."
"Don't be sad.
The dead can't be brought back to life.
Everything has to move on," the little fox comforted softly. "I know. Don't worry about me. I've been through a lot more than you. As for you, now that you've reached the immortal realm, why haven't you transformed yet? Qingshan opened his eyes and looked at the little fox strangely. The little fox's face fell when she heard that. She lay on Qingshan listlessly and said dispiritedly, I don't know. I also want to transform, but my nine-tailed fox bloodline has always restricted my monster clan bloodline. I can't break free and can only maintain this state. How annoying, the little fox said sadly. She had long wanted to transform into a human girl and stay by Qingshan's side. This way, she could fall in love with Qingshan openly. She didn't want to be treated like a pet forever. Especially now that there was a mysterious woman who had succeeded, she was even more anxious. However, the more urgent she felt, the less she could transform. This made the little fox so anxious that it had become a knot in her heart. This shouldn't be. Even if you're a nine-tailed fox with a rich bloodline, you should have transformed by now in the immortal realm. Qingshan felt strange. He reached out and stroked the little fox. He permeated the little fox's bloodline with his immortal energy, making the little fox squint her eyes comfortably and forget about the depression just now. Strange. Qingshan shook his head helplessly after searching the little fox's bloodline. There was nothing wrong with the little fox's bloodline, just as she said. The nine-tailed fox's bloodline surrounded the human bloodline, preventing her from transforming. Logically speaking, you're now an immortal. You should be able to control your own bloodline and switch between humans and monsters, Qingshan asked the little fox curiously. The little fox said aggrievedly, I've tried, but it didn't work. The nine-tailed fox's bloodline is too powerful. I can't mobilize it at all. Moreover, as my cultivation becomes more and more powerful, this bloodline becomes more and more intense. It makes me very distressed. What do I need to do to transform? The little fox said pitifully. Qingshan pondered for a moment and said, You have just entered the immortal plane. Now, convert the spiritual qi in your body into immortal energy. See if you can control your bloodline. What if it doesn't work? The little fox asked. Qingshan looked at the little fox and said, If it doesn't work, I can only take you to a place to see if there's an answer. What place? The little fox's eyes lit up. She looked at Qingshan with anticipation. The monster realm. Qingshan said. He couldn't help but think of the fox lady he had met in the prodigy battlefield and the god realm. The other party was of the same race as the little fox. Although her bloodline wasn't as strong as the little fox's, she still had 8 tails. She had successfully transformed and was as beautiful as a fairy. In the monster realm, the fox race was also a large clan with considerable influence. There were as many experts as clouds. Although there were no emperors, there were still crimson immortals presiding over them. Perhaps the fox race might have a way to help the little fox solve her bloodline problem. After all, their inheritance had never ended. Speaking of inheritance, Qingshan immediately remembered the great path of fate that he had always lacked. The little fox's inherited memories contained information about it. An idea came to him. He asked the little fox, You said that in the inherited memories, there was a 9-tailed fox in the previous generation who comprehended the great path of fate? The little fox looked at Qingshan and nodded gently, saying, Yes, there was. Then have you comprehended the great path of fate? Qingshan continued to ask. No, it's too complicated. It's more complicated than any other great paths. Just looking at it makes me dizzy. So after some preliminary exploration, I never managed to comprehend it. The little fox shook her head. In order to break through quickly and come to the immortal plane as soon as possible, she cultivated other great paths and gave up on the great path of fate. Chapter 364, The Way to Resurrect Taoist Dragon? 2. That great path of fate was extremely complicated. If she were to seriously comprehend it, she would probably not be able to ascend without 3,000 years. Letting the little fox stay in the human world for 3,000 years would drive her insane. Qingshan carried the little fox and lay on the rocking chair. He said softly, Then tell me, what does the great path of fate look like? I only know that once the great path of fate appears, it can crush other great paths and reverse everything in the world. It's extremely domineering, the little fox said. What is the origin of that nine-tailed fox who comprehended the great path of fate? Qingshan asked curiously. I'm not sure either. Do you want to see it for yourself?
I can share the inheritance memories that I can see with you, the little fox said to Qingshan with a face full of joy.
All right. Qingshan was delighted and immediately agreed. Smack! The little fox didn't say anything else and kissed Qingshan directly.
A pink energy surged into Qingshan's body, making him feel refreshed. He floated into a dreamlike world. This world floated unsteadily. Standing inside, it was as if he had come to the sea and was on a huge ship that swayed with the wind. Qingshan saw a young girl appear beside him. The girl was as beautiful as a fairy. She was draped in a pink veil, so beautiful that Qingshan's eyes lit up. She was exquisite in appearance, slim in figure, and her skin was as smooth as jade. This kind of beauty shouldn't exist in the human world. It made Qingshan feel surreal. A flawless woman was like the reincarnation of the goddess. She smiled lightly, causing the moon to lose its light and the stars to fade away. Everything in the world had lost its luster, leaving only her bright and beautiful. You are Little Fox? Qingshan exclaimed in surprise. Yeah, am I beautiful? The little fox smiled and leaned close to Qingshan. Her bright eyes stared at Qingshan, radiating with charm. Qingshan's breath stagnated and took a step back to put some distance between them. He looked at the little fox. It was indeed beautiful. The eight-tailed monster fox was already stunning enough to make the holy prince obsessed. Wouldn't the nine-tailed fox be heaven-defying? This was the question that Qingshan had been thinking about. Now, the answer had appeared. The little fox's transformation into a human was indeed stunning. Qingshan had seen many beauties, such as Hua Shangron, the Fox Lady, Little Nine, the Heavenly Emperor, the Phoenix's daughter. These women were all peerless beauties in the world, making thousands of men go crazy. However, none of them were as stunning as the little fox. Qingshan was stunned at first sight, and he was still stunned after seeing her again. What are you afraid of? The little fox chuckled when she saw Qingshan retreat. She patted her chest and looked at him coquettishly. With just a smile or a frown, they could stir up a man's emotions. This was a skill from birth. No wonder the nine-tailed fox was described as a calamity in ancient times. It does have such ability. Qingshan looked at the nine-tailed fox and sighed. That's because those emperors couldn't hold themselves back and blamed us, the little fox said. Then, she looked at Qingshan and suddenly approached him. She said ambiguously, speaking of which, you don't have a country for me to bring disaster to. Qingshan coughed and distanced himself from the little fox. He said, how did you transform? This is my inheritance space, and this is my soul. My soul isn't affected by my bloodline, so I can switch to human form here, but not in the outside world, the little fox said helplessly. Let's go. I'll bring you to see that senior's great path of fate. The little fox hugged Qingshan's arm and pulled him forward. Qingshan and the little fox entered the inheritance space together. A towering tree grew in the center. Its leaves were lush, and after it spread out, it covered the sky and the earth. It was extremely huge. Countless dreamlike fruits hung on this tree. They were very beautiful and attracted Qingshan's attention. Every fruit here is an inheritance left behind by a nine-tailed fox senior, the little fox said. Qingshan suddenly understood. In the monster realm, the fox race had never lost its inheritance. Naturally, the nine-tailed fox had never lost it either. The bloodline of the nine-tailed fox wasn't passed down from generation to generation but was random. Just like the little fox, her father was Wu Xiaobai and her mother was a fox racewoman. They had never come to the immortal plane and had always been in the human world. However, they gave birth to the little fox, who awakened the bloodline of the nine-tailed fox. From this, it could be seen that the nine-tailed fox bloodline was not hereditary. It was randomly awakened. Does awakening the bloodline of the nine-tailed fox mean obtaining these inheritances? Qingshan asked curiously. No, the little fox shook her head and carefully explained, in each period, no matter how many nine-tailed fox bloodlines are awakened, only one can obtain the inheritance. The others only have bloodlines and no inheritance.
So, even if you haven't passed away, others who awaken the nine-tailed fox bloodline won't be able to obtain these inheritances? Qingshan exclaimed in surprise, not expecting such a story.
Yes, even if I die, the memories of the inheritance won't be obtained by those who have already awakened the nine-tailed fox bloodline, but by the next generation of the nine-tailed fox bloodline.
The little fox nodded. Then, there are so many dream fruits on this tree. Which one is the great path of fate? Qingshan asked. This one. The little fox stretched out her hand and pointed.
In the middle of the tree, there was an extremely dreamy fruit.
It was pink in color and seemed to contain a universe. It was shining brightly and deeply. How can I comprehend the great path of fate inside? Qingshan asked. I don't know.
I only touched it once and was instilled with some superficial knowledge.
However, although it's just superficial, it's like a heavenly book to me.
I can't understand it at all, the little fox murmured.
Chapter 365, The Way to Resurrect Taoist Dragon?
3. Qingshan tried to touch it with his hand. But the fruit remained unresponsive.
This doesn't work for me, Qingshan said softly. Then what should we do? Should I pluck the fruit and let you try eating it?
The little fox's eyes lit up and she said seriously. She was willing to offer anything, be it inheritance or the fruit of path, to Qingshan.
Hold on, I'll do it myself. Don't disturb me. Let me try it alone.
Qingshan stopped the little fox. If it was useless to pluck it off, it would damage the great path of fate. This was unacceptable to Qingshan. It wasn't easy for him to encounter the shadow of the great path of fate. If he didn't seize it, he would really cry to death. If Qingshan wanted to break through from the immortal king realm and become an emperor, he had to comprehend all the 3,000 great paths. He only lacked the great path of fate now. Now that the great path of fate was right in front of him, he had to grasp it.
The little fox knew that Qingshan's comprehension ability was very powerful.
She immediately retreated and gave space for Qingshan to comprehend it alone. Qingshan stood in front of this huge tree of inheritance with his hands behind his back. He looked at the fruit that contained the great path of fate and looked at it seriously. The primordial spirit power enveloped the fruit and tried to comprehend it.
However, the fruit remained tightly sealed and didn't give Qingshan a chance to infiltrate it.
Qingshan didn't give up and continued to work hard.
Gradually, he sank into it. The little fox kept looking at Qingshan's back with a satisfied expression.
She wished this moment could last forever. In this space, Qingshan would always belong to her.
Unfortunately, she couldn't transform yet.
When the little fox thought of this, she puffed up in frustration, her chest swelling with indignation. Qingshan didn't know how long he observed and comprehended here. The fruit still didn't allow him to infiltrate it, but it wasn't that Qingshan didn't gain anything. He coiled the fruit thoroughly and saw the inner core through the outer surface.
He saw a door inside.
It resembled the gate of Qianpin, similar to the Heavenly Emperor's portal. It floated up and down in the fruit, emitting a strange and wonderful charm. Your serious observation activated max-level comprehension, and you've peered into the gate of fate. A line of words appeared in front of Qingshan. His spirit lifted and he immediately checked. The portal within the fruit should be the gate of fate. This time, Qingshan peered into the fruit again and found that he could enter easily without any obstacles.
Qingshan was overjoyed.
His primordial spirit immediately erupted and surged into the fruit, bringing out the ethereal gate of fate.
Thump! As soon as the gate of fate appeared, it intimidated the surroundings.
With a thunderous boom, it woke the little fox up. She wiped away the non-existent drool. She had fallen asleep waiting.
What's wrong? The little fox, who had woken up, immediately asked Qingshan.
Qingshan replied immediately, nothing happened. I just extracted the gate of fate from the fruit. The gate of fate, the little fox approached and indeed saw a portal. After leaving the fruit, it returned to its normal state, peacefully suspended in front of Qingshan.
This is it. It was this that gave me a little bit of the Great Path of Fate. It's like a heavenly book. I don't understand it. The little fox pointed at the Gate of Fate and said.
Qingshan calmly looked at the Gate of Fate in front of him. It was floating with mysterious inscriptions engraved upon it. He couldn't tell what era it was from, but it was mysterious. The Great Path of Fate should be behind the gate. Qingshan reached out to touch the Gate of Fate. It felt substantial. After touching it, the Trikaya Buddhist scriptures and the 6 paths of samsara in Qingshan's mind actually woke up and shook. The Trikaya Buddhist scriptures and 6 paths of samsara are extremely wary of the Gate of Fate. Qingshan noticed that they were afraid of the Gate of Fate.
Interesting.
Then I must put the Gate of Fate in my sea of consciousness to suppress them. Qingshan made up his mind.
He said to the little fox, "You don't mind if I take the Gate of Fate away, do you?" "I don't mind. I don't mind at all. What's mine is yours. You can just take it."
"I can't comprehend it anyway," the little fox said happily. She was very happy to be able to help Qingshan.
"All right."
Qingshan reached out and caressed the little fox's head, then put the Gate of Fate into his sea of consciousness. The Gate of Fate didn't resist and allowed Qingshan to take it.
Thump!
In Qingshan's sea of consciousness, there were 2 mysterious techniques, the Trikaya Buddhist scriptures and the 6 paths of samsara, each occupying a corner. Additionally, there were also 3,000 great paths, which had transformed into the Great Path ancestral dragons and wandered inside. Originally, these great paths played with themselves and didn't care about each other. However, as the Gate of Fate entered and pressed down on the vast and boundless sea of consciousness, the 3,000 great paths immediately came over. Like wandering children who had found their home, they surrounded the Gate of Fate and were very excited.
Boom!
At this moment, the Gate of Fate also accepted the other 2,999 great paths and let them surround it. Then, it occupied the center of the sea of consciousness.
With its own power, the Gate of Fate pushed the Trikaya Buddhist scriptures and the 6 paths of samsara to the side.
The Trikaya Buddhist scriptures and the 6 paths of samsara were no match for the Gate of Fate. After being pushed to the side, they abandoned their previous grudges and chose to join forces to resist the impact of the Gate of Fate.
Qingshan watched coldly from the side.
Seeing this scene, he had a new understanding of the power of the Gate of Fate. As expected of the gate that stored the number 1 of the 3,000 great paths, it forcefully suppressed Qingshan's sea of consciousness. There were all kinds of treasures in Qingshan's body. Most importantly, there were some treasures that he had yet to understand.
Chapter 366, The Way to Resurrect Taoist Dragon? 4. Translator, Nayabo Studio Editor, Nayabo Studio. For example, the Trikaya Buddhist scriptures and the 6 paths of samsara, as well as the big clock, the giant sword, and the tree of enlightenment in his core.
Therefore, it wasn't a big deal to have another Gate of Fate. As long as I open the Gate of Fate, I can comprehend the Great Path of Fate. Qingshan looked at the tightly shut Gate of Fate and understood. He was already infinitely close to the Great Path of Fate. As long as he opened the Gate of Fate, it would be very easy for him to comprehend the Great Path of Fate. Once he comprehended the Great Path of Fate and mastered the 3,000 great paths, he could step into the Emperor realm. Therefore, what I need to do next is to continue comprehending and opening the Gate of Fate. Once I completely comprehend the Great Path of Fate, it will be a new starting point.
Qingshan's eyes were bright.
He withdrew from his sea of consciousness and saw the little fox's concerned face.
"How is it? Have you comprehended the Great Path of Fate?" The little fox almost stuck to Qingshan's body and asked with concern.
"Not yet, but I've found a way. If I follow this path, I'll definitely find a way," Qingshan said.
"That's good. I'm glad I could help you.
You've been taking care of me all this time. I want to help you too," the little fox said happily. Qingshan felt a warmth in his heart. He said, "The help you've given me is invaluable. Perhaps only you can help me in this world."
"Am I that important to you?"
The little fox grinned happily.
"Yes, very important. Li Qingshan nodded. The little fox giggled happily.
Just a bit of warmth from Li Qingshan could keep her happy for a long time.
Let's go, we'll go out first, Li Qingshan said to the little fox. All right then. The little fox didn't really want to go out.
If she went out, she would become a fox again. However, Li Qingshan had indeed spent a long time in the inheritance space.
It was time to go out.
Buzz, buzz, buzz. Li Qingshan and the little fox left the inheritance space and returned to the real world. Back in the real world, Li Qingshan counted on his fingers and found that half a month had passed.
Oh no, I've become a fox again, the little fox's plaintive voice sounded.
She raised her snow-white claws and gestured with an unhappy expression.
Don't worry. I'll bring you to the monster realm in a while and look for the people from the fox race. They should have a way.
Li Qingshan stroked the little fox's fur and said.
When? Little fox asked anxiously. Not now.
If I leave the Celestial Immortal Academy now, it'll be another disaster if I'm discovered. At the very least, I have to wait until I comprehend the great path of fate before I can go to the monster realm.
Li Qingshan thought for a moment.
It wouldn't be wise for him to roam around in the immortal plane at the moment.
Taoist Dragon risked his life to save him. If he went out again and was found by the emperors, who could save him this time? All right. I'll wait a little longer.
After all, so many years have passed, the little fox said listlessly and then jumped down from Li Qingshan's body.
I won't disturb your cultivation. I need to transform the spiritual qi in my body into immortal energy and work hard to become stronger.
The little fox cheered herself on.
She entered Li Qingshan's courtyard, found a room, and began to cultivate.
Li Qingshan witnessed all of this and smiled gently.
He sat up seriously and pondered. Taoist Dragon risked his life to save me.
I have to work hard and break through to the Emperor realm as soon as possible.
Li Qingshan thought firmly. Coincidentally, he had also obtained the Gate of Fate.
As long as he opened this gate, the great path of fate would be within his grasp. Li Qingshan was ready to begin his long seclusion again.
However, just as he was about to enter seclusion, a familiar voice called out. Big brother Li Qingshan, someone from the Celestial Court wants to see you.
This shout came from the foot of the mountain. Li Qingshan turned his head and saw that it was Amon. He frowned slightly and said calmly, "Tell the people of the Celestial Court to leave."
"I don't want to see them."
Amon heard Li Qingshan's words, hesitated for a moment, then shouted, "Brother Li Qingshan, they said there's something about Master that they want to talk to you."
Amon's master was Taoist Dragon. Back then, Li Qingshan had reminded Taoist Dragon to pay attention to Amon's talent.
After Taoist Dragon had checked it, he took Amon as his student and guided him carefully. Therefore, there was no problem for Amon to call Taoist Dragon his master.
The people from the Celestial Court are here, saying they want to talk to me about Taoist Dragon? Li Qingshan frowned. Taoist Dragon had already passed away, what was there to talk about?
But just in case, Li Qingshan decided to meet with them. He got up from the rocking chair, stepped out of the space warp, and appeared next to Amon.
"Where are the people from the Celestial Court?" Li Qingshan asked Amon.
"Brother Li Qingshan, the people of the Celestial Court are in the reception hall."
"I'll take you there." Amon immediately led Li Qingshan to the reception hall of the Celestial Court Academy.
When Li Qingshan came to the reception hall, he saw a pot-bellied elderly. He had white hair and a youthful face.
He was of medium build and had a big belly. He was smiling.
When he saw Li Qingshan, he quickly stood up and greeted him with both hands. He said, "Greetings, Lord Li Qingshan."
"Who are you? Why are you looking for me at the Celestial Court Academy?" Li Qingshan frowned and asked.
"I am from the Zhang family, the descendants of the Emperor clan."
"My name is Zhang Qingshan."
"I am here to pay my respects to Lord Li Qingshan on the orders of my family's master," Zhang Qingshan said generously.
"Descendants of the Emperor clan, the Zhang family?" Li Qingshan immediately thought of an emperor. The Central Jade Emperor.
His surname was Zhang and his name was Byron. However, after becoming an emperor, the title of the Central Jade Emperor overshadowed his own name.
Chapter 367, The Way to Resurrect Taoist Dragon? 5. Translator, Nayabo Studio Editor, Nayabo Studio. However, his descendants couldn't inherit the title of Central Jade Emperor, so they could only take his surname, Zhang.
Therefore, in the Celestial Court, the Zhang family, the descendants of the Emperor clan, represented the Central Jade Emperor.
I have no dealings with the Zhang family. Why are you looking for me? Li Qingshan frowned and asked.
My family's master wants to invite Lord Li Qingshan to the Celestial Court. He has something to discuss with Lord Li Qingshan, Zheng Qingshan said with a smile.
I'm not going. There's nothing for us to talk about.
Li Qingshan shook his head and refused. He thought to himself that it was indeed the case.
They were here to recruit him.
Li Qingshan felt bored and turned around to leave. Lord Li Qingshan, my family's master invites you to discuss with you how to resurrect Taoist dragon, Zheng Qingshan hurriedly said when he saw Li Qingshan leaving. Li Qingshan stopped in his tracks.
He frowned and looked at Zheng Qingshan as he asked sternly, Do you know what you're talking about?
Before I set off, my family's master told me what to say, and I'll speak nothing but the truth, Zheng Qingshan said seriously.
Resurrect Taoist dragon? He forcefully sublimated, shattered in the depths of the stars after battling an emperor. How can he be resurrected?
Li Qingshan frowned and asked. His first reaction was disbelief. But then, he found it incredulous.
What if the descendants of the emperor clan, the Zhang family, had a way?
After all, it wasn't like there were no emperors who had been resurrected.
After the demonic divine concubine was killed by the two emperors of the god race, didn't she also resurrect in the human world? What if there was hope?
My family's master told me that as long as Lord Li Qingshan goes to the Celestial Court, he will give me the way to resurrect Taoist dragon, Zheng Qingshan said seriously.
Must I go to the Celestial Court?
Li Qingshan frowned. Yes, my family's master is waiting for Lord Li Qingshan in the Celestial Court. Please rest assured, you're a well-known genius of the Celestial Court in the Immortal Plane. No matter how stupid and muddle-headed our Zhang family is, we won't deceive you and kill this genius of the Immortal Plane, right? Zheng Qingshan said sincerely. These words were reasonable. Moreover, Li Qingshan was absolutely confident that he could protect himself. He wasn't worried about this. He was worried that his hopes would be in vain.
How exactly can Taoist dragon be resurrected? Li Qingshan asked with a frown.
If he didn't figure this out, he would still feel a little uneasy. Lord Li Qingshan, the resurrection method involves confidential matters within the family. My family's master instructed me to tell you that by simply visiting the Celestial Court, you'll have the opportunity to obtain the method to resurrect Taoist dragon.
Why not give it a try?
Zheng Qingshan was a qualified persuader. With just a few words, he had already made Li Qingshan restless.
How confident are you in resurrecting Taoist dragon? Li Qingshan asked seriously.
Lord Li Qingshan, there's a crimson immortal patriarch of the Zhang family. He's already 500,000 years old. He was a fierce general who accompanied the Jade Emperor on his conquests. However, he suffered countless internal injuries during his early years. In his later years, they all erupted and took his life. In the end, he died in a sad manner.
Not long after his death, the family's master personally performed a resurrection technique for this patriarch.
A few years later, when I saw this patriarch again, he was no different from a normal person. I can swear to you that everything I said is true. If it's false, I will never be able to break through to the next realm. Zheng Qingshan raised his finger and swore to the heavens.
Surly contemplated for a moment and said, You go back first. Tell them I'm going to visit the Zhang family of the Celestial Court tomorrow.
All right, my family's master and I will be waiting for you in the Zhang family, Zheng Qingshan said contentedly. Then, he left the hall and returned to the Celestial Court. In the reception hall, Li Qingshan was left alone, his hands behind his back as he pondered silently.
Is there really a method for resurrection? Can Taoist dragon be saved?
Li Qingshan muttered to himself. If there really was, he would do everything in his power to bring Taoist dragon back to the world.
Chapter 368, The Family's Master of the Zhang Family. 1. Translator, Nayabo Studio Editor. Nayabo Studio. The sudden visit from the Celestial Court, which was related to Taoist Dragon, made Li Qingshan contemplate for a moment, but ultimately, he decided to go to the Celestial Court. Regardless, as long as there was a glimmer of hope, he wanted Taoist Dragon to come back.
The agreed time was tomorrow. As Li Qingshan was preparing to leave, he saw the dean of the Celestial Court Academy approaching.
Lord Li Qingshan, did people from the Zhang family just come? Dean Muran asked.
Yes, they brought some news.
Li Qingshan nodded. Dean Muran pondered for a moment and asked, are they talking about resurrecting the teacher? Li Qingshan looked at Dean Muran in surprise and asked, do you know they have a method for resurrection? I've heard some rumors.
Dean Muran nodded and said, in the immortal plane, among the descendants of several emperor clans, the most powerful is the Zhang family, which inherited the lineage of the central Jade Emperor. The Zhang family has secrets, and this is something known to the higher-ups of the Celestial Court. I've heard that the current family's master of the Zhang family is very mysterious.
Be cautious when you meet him, Dean Muran said.
I'll find out tomorrow when I go to the Celestial Court, Li Qingshan said calmly.
Please be careful. They don't have good intentions. They just want to take you under their wing, Dean Muran cautioned.
In the past, my teacher was here to forcefully reject the requests of the descendants of the Emperor clan.
Now that my teacher is gone, the deterrence is gone.
These descendants can enter the Celestial Court Academy at will, Dean Muran sighed.
I'll be careful. No matter what the result is tomorrow, I'll have to go and take a look. What if they have a way? Li Qingshan said.
No matter how dangerous the Celestial Court might be internally, he had to go and take a look. I hope everything goes well for you, Dean Muran said. Li Qingshan nodded and turned to leave the hall. He saw Aman waiting outside the door and said, cultivate well. I will, big brother Li Qingshan.
Aman nodded firmly and looked at Li Qingshan with admiration.
He regarded him as his idol in his heart. The two of them had entered the Celestial Court Academy together. Although their cultivation levels were not much different, 20 years had passed in the blink of an eye, and Li Qingshan had become a Crimson Immortal, while Aman's cultivation level remained average.
Aman knew he couldn't compare with Li Qingshan, but he couldn't help but idolize him and strive to catch up.
Li Qingshan patted Aman on the shoulder to encourage him and then left the hall, returning to his own courtyard. In his room, he lit some incense and sat cross-legged with a calm expression.
I still have one night to spare.
I can elongate time and try to open the Gate of Fate, Li Qingshan thought. As his cultivation base broke through and entered the fourth level of the Immortal King realm, the Crimson Immortal, Li Qingshan was extremely proficient in various great paths, especially the Path of Time, which he deeply comprehended. Although he only had one night, he could still elongate time for hundreds of years. It was enough for Li Qingshan to explore the Gate of Fate and try to open it.
If he could open the Gate of Fate before entering the Celestial Court, Li Qingshan would be more confident.
Throughout the night, time flowed over Li Qingshan. He closed his eyes and delved deep into the Gate of Fate within his sea of consciousness, continuously attempting to open it. Various methods were tried, but the Gate of Fate remained firmly in place, unmoved.
Should I use the Great Path to push open this door? Li Qingshan silently pondered.
Then, he attempted to use the power of the 3,000 Great Paths to push open the Gate of Fate.
Boom! Boom! Boom!
The 3,000 Great Paths stirred up enormous waves, crashing against the Gate of Fate. A tremendous vibration echoed within his sea of consciousness, but the Gate of Fate remained unaffected by the bombardment. Undeterred, Li Qingshan persisted. If once did not work, he tried twice. If twice did not work, he tried 4 times. He had plenty of time. Throughout the night, Li Qingshan spent hundreds of years continuously bombarding the Gate of Fate with the power of the 3,000 Great Paths. It wasn't until the final few years that the Gate of Fate began to tremble, revealing a slight crack. However, it soon closed again. As the night passed, the rising sun bathed the land in light, dispersing the darkness. Li Qingshan opened his eyes and dispelled the elongated time around him.
I still feel like I'm lacking something.
The Gate of Fate can be opened, but my current strength is not enough, Li Qingshan murmured to himself, summarizing the gains from last night. Overall, the gains were substantial. He learned that he needed to continuously bombard the Gate of Fate with the power of the 3,000 Great Paths, causing it to tremble and reveal a crack at the last moment. I'm already at the Crimson Immortal Realm, but I can only create a small crack. It seems that to open the Gate of Fate, I need the full force of an Emperor's power. Li Qingshan thought to himself. Where am I going to find an Emperor's full strength attack to blast open the Gate of Fate? Li Qingshan shook his head and felt troubled. He couldn't just randomly find an emperor and let them forcefully blast his sea of consciousness, right? This was tantamount to courting death. At that time, before the Gate of Fate could open, it would directly destroy his sea of consciousness. For now, I won't think about it. It's a new day, and I should head to the Celestial Court. Li Qingshan walked out of the courtyard and looked at the sea of clouds. After telling Hua Xiangrong and Little Nine that he was going to the Celestial Court, he tore open the space and left the Celestial Court Academy. The Celestial Court and the Celestial Court Academy were very far apart. The location of the Celestial Court Academy was chosen by Taoist Dragon. His initial intention was to stay away from the disputes of the Celestial Court and focus on teaching students. Therefore, it was very far from the center of the Celestial Court. However, this distance wasn't worth mentioning to Li Qingshan. He tore open space and descended into the Celestial Court. Chapter 369, The Family's Master of the Zheng Family, 2, Translator, Nayabo Studio Editor, Nayabo Studio Boom. Li Qingshan's arrival this time was unreserved, with a magnificent aura of a crimson immortal, which could be felt even at the center of the Celestial Court. After descending to the Celestial Court, Li Qingshan looked towards the center of the immortal plane's greatest power. The Celestial Court consisted of 9 layers of worlds, each nested within the other. Each world housed countless inhabitants, all part of the Celestial Court's internal structure, governed by an ancient and cumbersome system. Above the 9 layers of worlds lay the place where the descendants of the Emperor clan resided. There, one could find pavilions, floating gardens, towering fortresses and palaces reaching into the sky, numerous floating islands, immortal cranes soaring through the 9 heavens, celestial horses galloping, and an abundance of immortal energy. The sight was incredibly luxurious. After millions of years, the central area of the Celestial Court was indeed extremely luxurious. Li Qingshan had never seen a place more luxurious, grand, and filled with immortal energy. From the looks of it, it seems like the Celestial Court is still at its peak, intimidating the immortal plane and ruling over all directions. But the current Celestial Court is already in crisis, and a single misstep could lead to its downfall. Some thoughts flashed through Li Qingshan's mind. Li Qingshan didn't conceal his momentum. At this moment, countless divine souls shot towards him, wanting to know who this bold figure was. When they saw that it was Li Qingshan, many people became excited. Is this Li Qingshan? Is this his first time in the Celestial Court? The number 1 genius of the Celestial Court is indeed handsome. Why did he come to the Celestial Court? Hasn't Li Qingshan rejected the invitations of the Celestial Court many times and always stayed hidden in the Celestial Court Academy? Why did he suddenly come to the Celestial Court and make such a splash? I don't know, but judging by his demeanor, could it be that he's here for revenge? Revenge? What grudge does Li Qingshan have with the Celestial Court? How can there be no grudges? When the Emperor attacked Li Qingshan, the Celestial Court was silent. They didn't intervene. Why can't he come and demand justice? Inside the Celestial Court, discussions abound, curious about Li Qingshan's arrival. Just as everyone was guessing, a figure flew over from a floating island in the 9 heavens of the Celestial Court and landed in front of Li Qingshan. He bowed and said, "Greetings, Lord Li Qingshan." This person was Zheng Qingshan. Where's the family's head of your Zheng family? Li Qingshan asked directly. He was Crimson Immortal, and he had been invited here. Why wasn't the Zhang family's master welcoming him? Our family's master is waiting for Lord Li Qingshan on the floating island. He has something to discuss with Sir Li Qingshan, Zheng Qingshan said with a smile. Li Qingshan didn't say a word. He took a step forward, and the space cracked. He landed on the floating island.
Welcome, Qingshan. I've been waiting for almost 20 years. A loud laugh rang out, and then an elderly in green walked over. Qingshan looked at the elderly in green. He had a fair face and an extraordinary bearing. He was also in the crimson immortal realm.
His hair was neatly combed, and he carried an air of dignity. Though he wore a smile, it was reserved, dignified, and showed a long-standing high status. "This is the family's master of the Zhang family," Zhang Qingshan said softly.
Qingshan asked directly, "Do you have a way to resurrect Taoist dragon?"
The smile on the face of the Zhang family's master stopped. He sized up Qingshan and chuckled.
"Young people are impatient. I can understand. However, please come in and have a chat. We can talk in detail."
Qingshan frowned and looked at the grand hall in the distance. He carefully examined it but didn't find any danger.
He could only follow the family's master of the Zhang family into the hall. "Please take a seat."
Zhang Qingshan, serve tea, the family's master of the Zhang family said.
"No need. I don't like tea."
Qingshan shook his head. "Zhang family's master, if you have something to say, just say it. I don't like to beat around the bush."
"Can you resurrect Taoist dragon?" Qingshan asked seriously.
The smile on the Zhang family's master's face was concealed, and he calmly said, "Qingshan, although resurrecting Taoist dragon is difficult,
it's not impossible." "What method?" Qingshan asked directly.
"Have you heard of the Spring of Life?"
the family's master of the Zhang family asked.
Qingshan shook his head. He had never heard of it. The Spring of Life is the most miraculous spring in the immortal plane. Legend has it that it was left behind from ancient times and has the effect of defying the heavens and earth, allowing the dead to come back to life and healing injuries of the Great Path, the Zhang family's master said.
Qingshan's heart stirred. There was such a mysterious spring? Then where is this Spring of Life? Qingshan asked.
The Zhang family's master shook his head.
"I don't know."
Qingshan furrowed his brows lightly but didn't rush. Instead, he waited for the Zhang family's master's explanation. In ancient times, the Spring of Life appeared only once, healing a peak powerhouse at that time, resurrecting countless experts, and making a name for itself with a single battle. But the Spring of Life is very secretive, and no one knows where it is. Even emperors have tried to find it, but there's been no news. The Zhang family's master said.
"Isn't it like a mirage then, something that doesn't exist?" Qingshan's brows knitted tightly, feeling greatly disappointed.
The Zhang family's master's previous claim of being able to resurrect Taoist dragon turned out to be just a lure to bring Qingshan to the celestial court.
"This is one direction.
Once you find the Spring of Life, Taoist dragon can reappear in this world," the Zhang family's master said seriously.
"In this vast world, where should I look?" Qingshan shook his head. He didn't want to eat this big lie.
Huayan was a living person, he couldn't find her, so how could he find the Spring of Life?
Chapter 370, The Family's Master of the Zhang Family, 3, Translator, Nayabo Studio Editor, Nayabo Studio Qingshan, you will have all the resources of the Celestial Court after you enter the management level. The Zhang family will support you 100%.
I know that Taoist Dragon has always wanted to reform the Celestial Court, and I also think that the Celestial Court needs to be reformed.
The Celestial Court is rotten and bloated, and it's hard to continue.
The Celestial Court needs a genius who can change the world. You are that person, the family's master of the Zhang family changed his tone and said seriously.
Qingshan looked at the Zhang family's master in surprise. He wanted to reform the Celestial Court? You don't think that this person is me, do you? Qingshan smiled.
He had no interest in getting involved in this mess.
Of course. I can't think of anyone else.
You're the best candidate, the Zhang family's master said, reaching out to stop Qingshan from speaking.
Let me finish.
Qingshan gestured for him to continue, but his heart was extremely calm and indifferent.
Back then, Taoist Dragon was full of enthusiasm and passion for the Celestial Court.
He was determined to reform the Celestial Court, but he met with obstacles everywhere. In the end, he was disheartened and left the Celestial Court to establish the Celestial Court Academy.
Thinking of Taoist Dragon's ending, Qingshan didn't have any thoughts about reforming the Celestial Court.
However, he wanted to know what the family's master of the Zhang family had prepared to persuade him to come to the Celestial Court with the Spring of Life.
The family's master of the Zhang family was calm. He waved his hand and asked Zhang Qingshan to leave.
In the huge hall, only Qingshan and him were left.
It was empty as if they were in the wilderness. Qingshan, the Celestial Court is on the brink of collapse, the family's master of the Zhang family sighed.
Qingshan listened quietly with a calm expression. There had always been this saying about the destruction of the Celestial Court. However, very few people in the Celestial Court talked about this.
Moreover, the core members of the Celestial Court, the descendants of the Emperor clan, wouldn't believe this.
Qingshan was very curious.
Why did the family's master of Zhang family say that the Celestial Court was going to be destroyed? Do you find it unbelievable? I'm the descendant of the Emperor clan, the family's master of the Zhang family.
I have supreme authority. How dare I say that the Celestial Court is going to be destroyed? The family's head of the Zhang family laughed at himself.
Qingshan nodded slightly.
He was indeed very curious.
In your view, are the descendants of the Emperor clan incompetent? They managed the Celestial Court to this extent and made it so hopeless? The Zhang family's master asked Qingshan. Isn't that so?
Qingshan countered.
The Zhang family's master nodded and said, "You're right. The Celestial Court is indeed in a mess. The descendants of the Emperor clan didn't manage the Celestial Court well.
We control the vast resources of the Celestial Court, but we only think about ourselves.
That's why you don't want to interact with us. If I didn't say that we could resurrect Taoist Dragon, I'm afraid you wouldn't have come to the Celestial Court."
Qingshan remained silent. He just looked at the Zhang family's master and suddenly became interested.
It was clear that this family's master was very insightful. He was very curious. What else could the family's master of the Zhang family say? You know what?
I'm 30,000 years old this year. When I was young, it was when Taoist Dragon reformed the Celestial Court. At that time, I witnessed the benefits of Taoist Dragon's reform and all kinds of obstacles he faced. Those obstacles terrified me as a young man because each one seemed insurmountable, forcing me to compromise and go along with them. The family's master of the Zhang family raised his head and recalled the past as he said with a complicated tone.
Qingshan looked at the family's master of the Zhang family in surprise. He didn't expect that he had met Taoist Dragon at his peak during his youth. His interest grew more and more.
Just a moment ago, he had thought this trip to the Celestial Court was fruitless. But now, the Zhang family's master before him made Qingshan feel that this journey wasn't in vain. Taoist Dragon was pressured by you Emperor clan descendants, forcing him to leave, Qingshan said. The Zhang family's master looked at Qingshan, his tone complex.
Taoist Dragon was acting on the will of the Gaochen Emperor to reform the Celestial Court.
Despite the immense pressure from us Emperor clan descendants, we couldn't make him leave. All we could do was hinder him at every turn, but we made him disheartened enough to leave the Celestial Court and establish the Celestial Court Academy.
Qingshan's expression changed.
It's not you guys, then, the Zhang family's master pointed to the top of his head, calmly saying, Qingshan, don't think of the Celestial Court as a unified entity. In fact, any major power struggles internally, even among emperors, there are different intentions. Qingshan frowned, looking at the Zhang family's master.
This person was very clear-minded.
The differing ideologies among the emperors were clearly the main reason for the Celestial Court's decline. Compared to this, other conflicts were minor issues. The true decline of the Celestial Court began after the 5 decays of heaven and man during the reign of Qingshan Emperor.
Since then, the emperor's thoughts diverged.
Those who once had intimate bonds, shared ideals, and endless conversations, now have their own agendas and no longer unite. Some wish to maintain the ancient system.
Some seek higher realms beyond worldly affairs.
Some forget their initial ideals after achieving power. Some remained devoted to expanding the celestial court and reforming the old system to benefit all.
Factions within the celestial court swiftly emerged from that moment on, continuing to this day. This marked the beginning of the celestial court's decline.
The voice of the Zhang family's master echoed in the empty hall, his expression complex.
What was the original purpose of creating the celestial court? Li Qingshan asked.
Chapter 371, The Family's Master of the Zhang Family. 4. When the celestial court was first established, there was an ancient celestial court. However, the ancient celestial court was very cruel and only respected the strong. The weak only deserved to be exploited. Moreover, the ancient celestial court had other secrets that caused public grievances to boil.
Countless experts united and various major powers joined forces. The monster clan, demonic sects, hell, Buddhist sects, and so on.
Under the leadership of a few young emperors, they overthrew the ancient celestial court. After that, on the ruins of the ancient celestial court, a few emperors declared the establishment of a new celestial court and built countless huge cities. In these cities, no one was allowed to attack or fly.
Everyone in the city had to be treated equally.
They also signed a peace treaty with the major powers to allow everyone to develop peacefully. That period of time was known as the Peaceful Era.
This is the origin of the celestial court.
The original intention of the celestial court was to allow cultivators of the immortal plane to control their own destiny, providing survival soil and upward channels for the weak.
The young emperors achieved this.
The head of the Zhang family looked at Li Qingshan and said softly, "In the younger days, ideals are the greatest, but few can persevere unchanged," Li Qingshan said.
That's right.
Very few people can persevere unchanged.
After the peaceful era, the Qingshan emperor was the first to fall.
After that, all the emperors began to waver. Even the most idealistic Gaoqian emperor sometime and handed over the power of the celestial court to the central Jade emperor, who is also my ancestor, the head of the Zhang family said.
Did the Qingshan emperor really die from the 5 decays of heaven and man? Li Qingshan asked curiously. I don't know.
There's no record of it, nor there is any record within the Qingshan emperor clan.
After so many years, there's only one explanation, so it's the only answer.
The head of the Zhang family shook his head. After the Qingshan emperor died, the empowerment of the Gaoqian emperor, and the succession of the Jade emperor, the celestial court became bloated and rigid from then on.
There's no hope left.
Li Qingshan stared at the head of the Zhang family and said directly.
He was criticizing the ancestor, and Li Qingshan didn't know if the head of the Zhang family would be angry. The head of the Zhang family didn't get angry.
He said with a complicated expression, I just said that with the passage of time and the death of the Qingshan emperor, the thoughts of the emperors have changed.
The Jade emperor is the most obvious one.
He clings to the past, he likes the old system, he holds a high position, and his thoughts have undergone tremendous changes.
He doesn't like the emergence of experts in the immortal plane anymore.
The more Li Qingshan listened, the weirder his expression became. He seemed to recognize this character.
Not like the emergence of experts in the immortal plane?
Li Qingshan looked at the head of the Zhang family strangely and asked, could it be that in the past 10,000 years, no one has broken through to the emperor realm in the immortal plane, all because of your ancestor? The head of the Zhang family looked at Li Qingshan in surprise and asked, how do you know that? I know someone who shares the same idea as your ancestor. It's just that he's not as powerful as your ancestor, Li Qingshan said strangely. The person he was talking about was the White Dragon King of the human world. Back then, he had also set up an ancient array that imprisoned the spiritual Qi and great path of the human world, preventing countless experts from breaking through to the great venerable realm. Li Qingshan had thought that he was alone in this kind of eccentric idea and that others wouldn't have it again. Unexpectedly, upon arriving in the immortal plane, there was still another one, and it was even at the emperor realm.
It was simply an eye-opener. Wait a minute, the immortal plane is so vast, how did your ancestor manage it, and still silently? How did you know?
Li Qingshan thought about it carefully.
There were many loopholes and doubts in this. Most importantly, this is your ancestor.
Instead of supporting him, you're telling me this and even inviting me to the celestial court.
What do you want to do?
Li Qingshan's eyes were blazing as he stared at the head of the Zheng family. He couldn't figure out what the head of the Zheng family was up to. Do I have to support my ancestor? The head of the Zheng family asked Li Qingshan in return. Li Qingshan was startled, looking at the head of the Zheng family, extremely surprised, saying, "You want a rebel against your patriarch?" The head of the Zheng family shook his head and said, "It's not rebellion, it's just not agreeing with his path." "Do you want to hear my story?" The head of the Zheng family asked. "I'm all ears." Li Qingshan was filled with interest. He was very curious about the experiences of the head of the Zheng family, who held a high position. Actually, I didn't plan to be the family's master in the beginning. I was born in a collateral branch and no one supported me. Although I'm a genius myself, among the descendants of the Emperor clan, it's all about the strength of bloodlines. So I wasn't favored, had few resources, and didn't have much presence. I didn't care much, as long as I could progress. Others might have endless resources, but their cultivation speed wasn't faster than mine. Until I met Taoist Dragon. He was a genius in the truest sense, far surpassing me. Originally, I was just muddling through, without much ambition, just thinking about how to get stronger. But watching Taoist Dragon boldly reforming under immense pressure, wanting to remove the celestial court's bad habits, I was greatly impressed. I began to study more profound things, I began to have my own persistence, and I understood the problems of the celestial court. The biggest problem with the celestial court is that the powerful emperors are not managing it. They have other pursuits, forgetting their original intentions and treating all living beings as insignificant. The emperors didn't care, and the descendants of the emperor clan expanded crazily, breaking the balance, and turning the celestial court into their own private power. They only thought about their own family's affairs, completely forgetting the original intention of the celestial court, which was to shelter all under heaven and bring joy to the common people. Chapter 372, The Family's Master of the Zheng Family. 5. The head of the Zheng family narrated his story, which stunned Li Qingshan. When the head of the Zheng family was young, he met the most amazing Taoist dragon and was influenced by him. He began to awaken and see the essence of the world. He was enlightened. "You are also a descendant of the Emperor clan," Li Qingshan reminded the head of the Zheng family. "That's why I can see it clearly. I also understand that I'm not the one who can change everything. I'm stuck in a quagmire and can't extricate myself. I've long been branded as a descendant of the Emperor clan descendant. You know what? For the sake of reforming everything, I've secretly paid a lot. I'm from a collateral branch. I'm not qualified to inherit the position of the family's master, and no one supports me. I worked hard in my cultivation and relied on my extraordinary talent to break through to the immortal king realm. After that, I plunged into the quagmire of being a descendant of the Emperor clan and investigated everything. I also knew the conspiracy behind these power disputes. Sometimes, to understand the abyss, one must enter the abyss or even become one with it. I've been writing to Taoist Dragon all these years, but he no longer cares, doesn't believe in me. He thinks that internal reform of the celestial court is impossible, so he was disheartened." The head of the Zhang family said regretfully. "To be honest, I find it hard to believe too," Li Qingshan said seriously. "A genius who was born in the descendants of the Emperor clan actually wanted to overthrow the descendants of the Emperor clan, and even overthrow his own ancestor, the Jade Emperor." "Then do you believe me?" the head of the Zhang family asked with a smile. "I do." Li Qingshan nodded and said straightforwardly. "Why?" the head of the Zhang family asked curiously. "Because you have no reason to fabricate this story to deceive me. Moreover, this story is so shocking," Li Qingshan said directly. "Like Taoist Dragon, I love the celestial court deeply. He delved into the quagmire back then for the sake of the celestial court, wanting to reform it from within, but ultimately failed and ended up in a sorry state. Like him, I also plunged into the quagmire within the celestial court. I'm not as lucky as him. I've already merged too deeply and can't extricate myself. I can't achieve reform. All I can do is to seek help from outsiders and, with my assistance, reform the celestial court," the head of the Zhang family said in a deep voice. "Am I that outsider?"
Li Qingshan raised his eyebrows. Yes. The head of the Zhang family nodded. Why choose me when you don't even know me? Li Qingshan frowned. I may not know you, but I know Taoist Dragon. Even though he's been at the Celestial Court Academy for these years, I still pay attention to his every move. You are the one that Taoist Dragon thinks highly of. For you, he has done everything he could to protect you, even if he had to die. I naturally choose you. The head of the Zhang family looked at Li Qingshan and said seriously, Li Qingshan, if we join forces, with you in the light and me in the dark, I will fully support you, whether it's resources, intelligence, or internal power struggles within the Celestial Court. I can solve them for you. In necessary moments, I can sacrifice the Zhang family, sacrifice myself, all to help you. As long as you agree, we can work together to deeply reform the Celestial Court. Let's save this Celestial Court that is on the verge of collapse. Li Qingshan listened and looked at the head of the Zhang family in surprise. This plan was quite insane. The Celestial Court doesn't have much time left. If we don't reform it soon, it will collapse inevitably. I don't want to see that. At that time, the various races will wage war, and the immortal plane will become a battlefield. An era of chaos will come, which will be a great disaster for lower-level cultivators. I hope you can agree. The head of the Zhang family looked at Li Qingshan sincerely and said. In the empty hall, there were only Li Qingshan and the head of the Zhang family. Their shadows elongated, and the atmosphere was somewhat heavy. Li Qingshan looked at the head of the Zhang family, who was earnestly looking at him. His eyes were filled with determination as he revealed his ultimate goal. He wanted to assist Li Qingshan reform the Celestial Court and realizing his dream. You're now the family's master of the Zhang family. You should know that the internal conflicts within the Celestial Court are not just about cutting off the descendants of the Emperor clan. You still have the Jade Emperor and the Ziwei Emperor above you, and that's the biggest problem. Li Qingshan didn't agree, but instead calmly said. The Ziwei Emperor has fallen into a deep sleep. His control over the Celestial Court is minimal. The Jade Emperor is now just a figurehead, pursuing other things. His only requirement for the Celestial Court is to follow the ancient customs. He doesn't care about anything else. This is also the reason why the Celestial Court was indifferent when you were attacked by the Emperor of the Demon Realm that day. The two emperors of the Celestial Court have forgotten their original intentions. They've grown old. The head of the Zhang family said in a deep voice. Why don't you think about improving yourself and breaking through to Emperor Realm? You can launch a dimensional attack to eliminate these demons and monsters? Li Qingshan asked. I just said, the Jade Emperor doesn't want to see another emperor in the immortal plane. I investigated deeply and found out that he began arranging this 10,000 years ago. It took him 90,000 years to hatch a divine spirit thought, which exists within the Great Path. As long as someone tries to break through to the Emperor Realm, the divine spirit thought will descend and kill the breakthrough, and no one can discover this divine spirit thought. So, in the past 10,000 years, there hasn't been an emperor in the immortal plane, and there won't be in the future. Breaking through to Emperor Realm and then attacking by lowering the dimensions is basically impossible. The head of the Zhang family said dejectedly. Divine spirit thought? Li Qingshan asked with a frown, is this divine spirit thought very powerful? The full force attack of an emperor, or one like the Jade Emperor, cannot be resisted by any crimson immortal, the head of the Zhang family said. Wait a minute, Li Qingshan's eyes suddenly brightened. What did you just say? A full force attack of an emperor? Or one from a divine spirit thought? At this moment, Li Qingshan's mind grasped the precise information. He smiled happily. Chapter 373, 6 Great Emperor Scriptures, 1, Translator, Nayabo Studio Editor, Nayabo Studio. Chapter 132 6 Great Emperor Scriptures. The head of the Zhang family didn't know what Li Qingshan was laughing at. He asked curiously, that's the Jade Emperor's full power attack. I tried to break through to the Emperor Realm, but I felt that the aura had locked onto me. I dared not to proceed with the breakthrough. I dispersed all my strength and concealed myself. After investigating in secret, I found out about the Divine Spirit Thought. Does breaking through trigger the descent of the Divine Spirit Thought? Li Qingshan asked with a smile. He had been very troubled before, wondering where to find an Emperor Realm expert's full-force attack to open the Gate of Fate. Unexpectedly, the words of the Zheng family's master to resolve his doubts. Similar to the White Dragon King in the human world, the Jade Emperor didn't want any more geniuses to break through to the Emperor Realm. Following the old rules, he disliked any further disruptions to the balance of the immortal plane. Therefore, after spending 90,000 years, he birthed a divine spirit thought and integrated it into the heavenly Tao, which usually didn't manifest. But whenever a cultivator wished to break through to the Emperor Realm, the divine spirit thought would appear and intercept the breakthrough. A full-force attack from an ancient immortal emperor was something a crimson immortal couldn't withstand. That's why for the past 10,000 years, no one had successfully broken through. But wasn't this just right for Li Qingshan? I need emperor-level power to open the Gate of Fate. The divine spirit thought fits perfectly with this. So, when I break through to emperor, there's hope. Li Qingshan felt ecstatic inside. Coming to the celestial court today had been very rewarding. He now knew the true intentions of the head of the Zheng family, understood many secrets, and saw hope for his breakthrough to emperor. Even the hope of reviving Taoist dragon, though slim, was there. Once he broke through to the Emperor Realm, the hope would be even greater. Aren't you afraid of the Jade Emperor's divine spirit thought, the head of the Zheng family asked with a frown. I'm not afraid, Li Qingshan said earnestly. I know your plan. You want me, an outsider, to exterminate all the descendants of the Emperor clan in the Celestial Court? Li Qingshan asked. More or less. The descendants of the Emperor clan are currently the biggest cancer in the Celestial Court and must be eliminated. Their power must be restricted to prevent them from manipulating the Celestial Court. At the same time, we must have a clear goal to bring peace and stability to countless immortals and ordinary cultivators under the Celestial Court, truly fulfilling the ideal of bringing happiness to all. The head of the Zheng family nodded. Although he had lived for 30,000 years and had become the clan leader of the descendants of the Emperor clan, deep down, he was still the young man influenced by Taoist dragon, determined to reform. However, he couldn't do it alone. That's why he needed Li Qingshan, and he laid bare his intentions to move Li Qingshan with sincerity. He didn't trust Li Qingshan, but he trusted Taoist dragon. Anyone chosen by Taoist dragon wouldn't betray his sacrifice. Of course, there were also situational issues. The situation in the Celestial Court was becoming more urgent. If left unchanged, the consequences would be destruction. Just like the ancient Celestial Court, if internal reform was impossible, it would disappear into the dust of history. According to what you said, how long will it take to cleanse the Celestial Court? And when the time comes to wield the butcher's knife and slaughter the descendants of the Emperor clan, will the emperors still sit idly by? Li Qingshan pointed out the flaws in the head of the Zheng family's plan calmly. No plan is perfect. If we don't implement it, we'll only watch the Celestial Court decay and perish. I believe Taoist Dragon also doesn't hope the Celestial Court reaches that point, right? The head of the Zheng family said. He does indeed hope for the Celestial Court to improve and hopes for me to save it. Li Qingshan nodded. Now is the perfect time. I've dedicated for 30,000 years, and I'm willing to be your stepping stone. Even if it means backstabbing the descendants of the Emperor clan and ruining my reputation. As long as our initial wish is fulfilled, the Celestial Court will be revived and bring peace to this turbulent cultivation world. That's enough satisfaction for me, the head of the Zheng family hurriedly said. I don't want the Celestial Court to perish, but I won't agree to your plan either. It's too inefficient. Li Qingshan shook his head and remained calm. You want to break through from the Crimson Immortal Realm and enter the Emperor Realm. The head of the Zheng family saw through Li Qingshan's thoughts. Yes, break through from the Crimson Immortal Realm and become an emperor. Then, we will save the Celestial Court and carry out a drastic reform to fulfill Taoist Dragon's wish. Li Qingshan nodded. But there's the divine spirit thought. The head of the Zheng family frowned. Don't worry about me, I'll handle the divine spirit thought, Li Qingshan said firmly. It was precisely because of the divine spirit thought that he chose to break through to emperor after reaching the Crimson Immortal Realm. The divine spirit thought would break through the Gate of Fate, opening the long-sealed Great Path of Fate.
With all 3,000 great paths collected, he would inevitably break through to Emperor, then carry these 3,000 great paths to descend upon the celestial court, initiating a dimensional suppression.
That was Li Qingshan's perfect solution.
The head of the Zhang family looked at Li Qingshan, remained silent for a moment, sighed, and said, "Since you're so determined, I won't persuade you anymore. If you have a way to deal with the divine spirit thought, then try it. If it fails, you can try my method." Li Qingshan nodded at the words. This indeed could work. You've just broken through to the Crimson Immortal Realm and want to immediately break through to Emperor.
You lack accumulation. Although the celestial court is in chaos internally, its foundation is deep.
Over the years, countless secret techniques, various cultivation techniques, and insights from emperors are stored in the One Origin Heavenly Realm. You can go and take a look, carrying my waste token. You can go anywhere in the celestial court with it. The head of the Zhang family took out a jade token, exquisitely crafted, and handed it to Li Qingshan.
Chapter 374, 6 Great Emperor Scriptures, 2, Translator, Nayabo Studio Editor, Nayabo Studio. What is the One Origin Heavenly Realm? Li Qingshan asked curiously. It's the Celestial Court's treasure trove, an independent world. It's quite peculiar inside. Once you enter, you'll encounter things suitable for you, and there are also things for you to comprehend according to your talent. With your talents, you'll surely encounter many treasures inside, the head of the Zhang family said. Where is this One Origin Heavenly Realm?
Li Qingshan became excited. This was indeed a good place for him. After leaving this main hall, activate the jade token, and a channel will appear. At the end of it is the One Origin Heavenly Realm.
You can stay there as long as you want.
I hope it helps you accumulate quickly, the head of the Zhang family told Li Qingshan.
Thank you.
Li Qingshan cupped his hands and expressed his gratitude to the head of the Zhang family. I also hope you can break through to the Emperor realm, break this curse. To me, you're the best disruptor. As long as you can complete the reform of the Celestial Court, I can give you anything, the head of the Zhang family said solemnly.
Li Qingshan looked at the head of the Zhang family with a trace of admiration.
As a descendant of the Emperor clan, he should have been high and mighty, looking down on the immortal plane. However, for the dream of his youth, he firmly stood on the opposite side of the Emperor clan descendant. More importantly, he actually managed to get to the position of the Zhang family's master. Just as he said, to understand the abyss, one must enter it.
May I know the name of the head of the Zhang family? Li Qingshan asked humbly. He liked people with ideals. He preferred people who could adhere to their ideals from their youth into the future, unwavering. A name is just a code. I've long forgotten mine.
It hasn't been mentioned for many years.
It's enough for me to be the head of the Zhang family now, the head of the Zhang family said.
Then I'll take my leave first. I'll go take a look at the One Origin Heavenly Realm. If I gain some insights, I'll stay for a while.
But if not, I'll return, Li Qingshan said.
Please do as you please. Today's conversation between us, what I said to you, heard by you, won't be known by a third person.
I believe you won't disclose it either. If you have any problems in the future, remember to look for me.
The head of the Zhang family stood up and sent Li Qingshan off.
All right, but the next time I enter the Celestial